Hey everybody, I hope you're well. Welcome to my 50,000 subscriber live stream. Just saying that seems crazy. In this stream, I'm going to try and tell you everything that I know about off-camera flash and do so in a way that I hope you're going to find really, really useful. I now teach off-camera flash in a slightly different way than I did a few years ago, and I think this is now an easier way. But before we get into all that stuff, can I please ask you just to like the stream for me, please, because that will help just get it out there. And also, please let me know in the comments if you're watching, where you're from, so I can say hello. First comment, wow. Hi, Neil from Algeria. Hi, Beat. Thank you so much for joining. It's always amazing to me when I see people joining from different parts of the world like this. So thank you. Yeah, I've got so much to thank YouTube for. So yeah, we'll do that now. YouTube for me, which is something that I started, I think 5 years ago now, more or less to the day actually, has been huge. Like the support of everyone who has followed me on my channel, who subscribed to the channel, if you just watch my videos or you've left a comment or a like, honestly, it has meant so much to me. And this stream is a way of trying to repay you by giving you as much good information as I can in the next 2 hours or so. So please do let me know in the comments if you've got any questions at all. I'm just looking through the comments now. Hi, Robert. Hi, Ken. Hi, Helen. Hi, Gavin. Hi, Booth. Hi, Sanjay, Pankaj, Anthony, Vpaz, Emma, Carl. Thank you all so much for joining. I really, really appreciate it. As I say, in this stream, I'm going to cover as much as I can about off-camera flash, because hopefully that's probably why you follow me and my channel. A lot of what I do, obviously, is about off-camera flash. So, yeah, we'll get into everything. But again, first of all, I just want to thank you all for your support, for following me, for subscribing to the channel, and for watching the videos. It really has meant so much. And because of the support that you've given me on YouTube, it's meant that I can do other things in my business. I've got a really thriving community in Patreon, which is now an amazing group of people who I'm really good friends with. It's now enabled me to set up Flashmasters, which is the biggest project I've ever undertaken in my photography career. It's enabled me to run workshops year on year. And those workshops have always been sold out. And I think a lot of the reason for that is because people find me initially on this YouTube channel. So yeah, it's been huge for me. And it's something that I never thought would have happened if I go back 5 years. In fact, what I've got here is a little clip I'm going to show you from my the first YouTube video that I made, where I was speaking into the camera and I looked like a scared little mouse. I'm going to show you this now. But before I start, I just want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's subscribed to my channel so far, and for all the lovely and very, very kind comments that you've left. It's really, honestly, it's so nice for me to know that so many of you are looking at my videos and watching them and finding them so useful and getting so much inspiration from them. It really, makes me feel good. That's enough of that. But you can just see how scared I am. I'm looking away from the camera all the time. I'm saying, And YouTube's just helped me grow. I feel as though, I'm not brilliant at this, but I feel like I've got a little bit more confident, and hopefully the content that I'm providing is a little bit better now. So yeah, again, thank you for following me on YouTube. I really appreciate it. It's enabled me to do so many things in my business, and it's all thanks to this channel and your support. So thank you. So first of all, in today's stream, I'm going to go through everything I know about off-camera flash, and we're going to start off with very, very basics. Just to say, this stream will last about 2 hours. Now, what I'm going to try and cover probably is about 5 or 6 hours of content. This is a presentation that I've done before in my Patreon and for the Flashmasters community, and it lasted over 2 streams, which combined were 5.5 to 6 hours long, and I'm going to try and do it in 2 hours. So it's going to be very, very quick, but hopefully still very useful. If wherever we don't get through, the content is going to be available in either Patreon or Flashmasters, but I want to try and get through as much as I can on this stream. So let's start, first of all, by going through some images. And the first question I would think is, why would we use off-camera flash? Well, for me, one of the biggest reasons is because it can literally help you create something from nothing. which if you're a wedding photographer especially, can be such a good tool to have. Because if you're going to a wedding venue, for example, and you're thinking, oh, there's nothing here that I can use, it's basically just a room and that's it. Then flash, off-camera flash and off-camera lighting gives us the capability of creating literally something where there is nothing, which is impossible to do if you're just using natural light. So that's the first thing that I love it for. And the other thing that I would say, especially if you are based in a country where the weather isn't always very good. We are based in the UK. We are always faced with bad weather, even in the middle of summer. Only my last wedding, for example, it literally did not stop raining all day. And that makes it very difficult to shoot a wedding well because we're often confined to being indoors. And you're thinking, oh, I've only got this dark corner and I need to take group photographs. I need to take portraits and all I've got is this indoor space. It makes it very, very difficult, especially in the winter as well. When it starts to get dark, what do we do then? We need to add in lighting to shoot that wedding well, in my opinion. So that's where off-camera flash is so useful because it can give us this feeling of invincibility because you're thinking, okay, even if the weather's not good, even if it's really, the venue isn't great, I know that because of the tricks that I've got up my sleeve, because of the off-camera flash knowledge that I have, I can still create really cool and creative photographs for my couple. And that, to me, is why off-camera flash and off-camera lighting is so useful. I dread to think what it would be like to go and shoot a wedding without the off-camera flash equipment that I have. I'd feel like, really, really scared. So they're the biggest reasons, in my opinion. Plus, I also think that off-camera flash can still, even after, I've been using off-camera flash now for 12 years or so, and it can still help you stand out in what is a very crowded and saturated marketplace. These days, everybody's a wedding photographer, so it's really hard to stand out. But if you can use flash well and you can create images that the majority of people are not creating, you will stand out and it will literally get you bookings. Again, another huge advantage of off-camera flash. So that's the reasons for me. But again, please let me know in the comments if you've got any other reasons why you love flash. Thank you to TJ for joining. Again, please let me know if you do have any questions as well as we go through all this. And again, if I could please ask you to like the stream, that will just help the algorithm just to push it out there. So yeah, if you could please like the stream. We've got 23 likes at the moment, but 50 people watching. So if you wouldn't mind just hitting the like button, which is down there, I think, I would love you forever. So let's get into all the good stuff. Right, let me just close this and open this. So I'm going to try and teach you now off-camera flash for wedding photography in as quick a way as possible, in as easiest way as possible. Because the first thing I always want to say is off-camera flash can seem daunting. It can seem very, very scary. If I lift up a speed light, this is a Godox V860. It's got loads of buttons on the back. I've said this before on my channel, but I don't know what most of these buttons do. If this speed light will do lots more things than I know how it does. It's far more complicated than it needs to be. So I just try and strip it all back, simplify everything, and just see this speed light as being a box. Light comes out of this box, and all I'm doing is turning that light up or I'm turning that light down. That's it. That is all I'm doing with the speed light, except for just changing the group of it, which we'll talk about later on. But basically, all I'm doing, turning it on and thinking, do I need more flash power or do I need less flash power? And that's it. All these other buttons, I don't need to know. I'm sure it does very clever things, but it's not really important to me because I can get the results that I want literally from seeing this as a box with where light comes out of it. And as soon as you start seeing it like that, I feel like it gets much easier. So try, if you are someone, and I know there's lots of people who feel this way, and I used to feel this way. I'm sure many of you watching do. If you are someone who does feel like, oh, I can't use off-camera flash because it's too complicated, it's too scary, I don't know what all the buttons do, I'm just going to stick to natural light. I promise you, it is easier than you think. And I'm going to try and prove that to you on this stream. We just have to change the mindset that we have about off-camera flash. We have to change the relationship that we have with these little things. And when you do that and just see it as a box and like a big torch, basically, it becomes much easier. Okay, that's the first thing I always want to say. Okay, so we've got to break it down again. So the first step to taking an effective off-camera flash image is to identify then expose for the brightest parts of a scene, which I often refer to as the highlights. And when you expose for the highlights, you'll automatically underexpose everything else in the frame. And that is where you see the potential to create really cool images. So that's the first thing to bear in mind, that what you want to do is to get used to seeing the world like a camera sees it, underexposed. And when you do that, you'll start to see potential. And it's in that underexposed area that the potential lies. And I'm going to show you now a few examples of that. So, also, very important to remember, I can't say that word, but cameras have very poor dynamic range compared to our human eyes, and that is good. And what I mean by that is, with our human eyes, we don't see the world in lost highlights and lost detail in the shadow areas, but cameras do. So if you just look at wherever you are now, just look out and what is the brightest thing that you can see. Focus on that with your eyes and notice in your peripheral vision, you can still see dark things as well. But we're not losing the detail. Those dark areas don't go completely to black because our eyes have huge dynamic range. So the human eye can see from the highlights to the shadow areas here. And we see all that detail. A camera doesn't. A camera has to choose whether to expose for the highlights, just this bit. And if it does that, we lose the detail in the shadow areas, or we can focus on getting the details in the shadow areas, in which case all the bright parts of a photograph just go flashing. You know, we lose the highlights, and that's what happens, and you'll see it when you don't take your own photographs. When you take a photograph of something dark in a bright scene, maybe you're outside in terms of wedding photography, for example, shooting photographs of people, and the sky is very bright behind them. When you expose for the skin, you'll notice that the sky just goes completely to white. That's because the camera can't control it. It's not got enough dynamic range. But we can play on that. We can take advantage of that inferiority that the camera has compared to our human eyes and use it to our advantage. And that's what off-camera flash is all about. So let me just go back to the slides. Again, train yourself to look at the world through the limitations of a camera. You can actually do that now. You look a bit silly doing this, but wherever you are now, if you just squint with your eyes, like just go like that, and you'll start to see that your eyes underexpose the scene, which is what we're trying to do with off-camera flash images. So you can do it that way, but these days there is a cheat code. If you've got a mirrorless camera with an EVF, for example, I shoot on an A9, a Sony A9. So if you turn the camera on, put it into live view, underexpose the scene, you can literally walk round and look at the back of your camera and see the world underexposed. And that is where you will start to see potential for cool photographs. You have to see the potential first. And when we go through the steps, I often think that the hardest steps that you will take is actually seeing the potential of a good off-camera flash photograph before you've even picked the camera up. That's the tricky thing. But once you do train yourself to look at these bright objects and underexpose for them in your mind, you will start to see the world in a completely different way. And that is where you'll start to get confident and you'll start to be able to see the potential of what you can create with your camera. So again, the first step is to taking an effective off-camera flash photograph is to identify the exposure of the brightest part. Then we underexpose. Train yourself to look at the world like a camera does. So here's an example. This is just a very boring scene, but when we underexpose it, there is the potential. Do you see? It looks completely different to what we saw at the beginning, but when we look at it like a camera does, it looks completely different. That's good. That's exactly what we want. Here's another example. Oh, hopefully this will play. Now why? Sorry everyone. I thought I'd practiced this really well. No, not sure. Apologies. That is annoying. Oh, there's the play button. Sorry, 1 second. We will get there. So there we go. This is what the scene looked like to the human eye. But let's try and imagine, what will that scene look like if we look at it like an underexposed camera will look at it? There is the potential, and we can do that with our camera. We can also look at the world like a camera does. So again, not that great, because look at all these distractions. Let me just pop myself on the screen. If we just look at this picture here, there's chairs in the foreground. You know, there's just stuff that we don't want to see. But as soon as we start to see the world like a camera does, all those distractions go away. And notice how part of that photograph goes very underexposed. That is where we want to place our couple, in the underexposed area. Again, this is the other example I wanted to show you. Just show you that again. So that's what the human eye sees. That doesn't look very great, doesn't look interesting. But when we look at it like a camera looks at it, whoa, look at that. Just imagine what we can create now. Again, train yourself to look at the world underexposed. And that is the end result of looking at that initial scene underexposed. So by doing so, I had an area of the photograph that was completely underexposed, and that is where I place my couple. So this is the process that I go through. Here's another scene. Some of you who've watched my channel before will recognize this photograph. I've shown it a few times. That is a very boring scene of a corridor in a hotel. And you could just look at all the distracting elements there. As we look through the doorway, we see chairs. Look at that carpet. Not really the nicest looking carpet in the world. And it's just a bit messy. But let's look at this scene underexposed. Let's pretend that we're exposing for these lights on the wall. When we do that, all then distracting elements that we see will go away. We will just be left with a really cool looking base image of the lights on the wall, plus we're going to see these lights on the ceiling behind. So let's see what happens when we look at the world underexposed. We can create that photograph. Now the bottom half of that photograph is reflected back, which I'll show you how to do a bit later on in the stream. But if you just look at that from the couple and up, that is just an underexposed photograph, and then we've added off-camera flash. But that is what the human eye sees. And if you're a natural light photographer, no offense, what are you going to do there? Not much. But if you can add in flash, we can really create something that looks very different and will really impress your clients as well. And this is the key thing that I want to get across in this stream. So try to think of an off-camera flash photograph in layers, 2 layers, just like you would in Photoshop. Now, layer 1, the base layer, that is the natural light. That is what is pre-existing in the scene. So that is the photograph before we've added in any light ourselves. That is layer 1. That sits at the bottom. When we add off-camera flash, imagine that as being layer 2 that goes on top of layer 1. Okay, and this, trust me, if you can get your head around this, you will start to get confident and everything will start to become much easier. So layer 1 is the pre-existing ambient light that we are not adding, it's already there. Layer 2 is the flash that we are adding into the scene. Now layer 1, that is just controlled with our camera. Layer 2 is controlled with our trigger and our speed lights. So let me just break that down a little bit. So what the process I take when creating an off-camera flash image, first of all, is to just use my camera with no trigger, no speed lights. All I'm doing is taking a photograph of a scene that I think has potential. Now, what gives it potential? It's a bright object. Now, that could be the sky. in particular the sun in the sky. It could be a light on the wall, as we saw before. It could be a light on the ceiling. It could be a candle. It can be anything that is bright. So that's the key thing. And again, it goes back to what I said earlier in the stream. We need to train ourselves to look for bright things. Like with the example we saw before with the lamps on the table. I saw that table with the lamps on. I thought, oh, I know that when I look at that scene like a camera does, I'm underexposing with my mind's eye. That will give me good potential for an off-camera flash portrait. So that's the first thing I do. Before we even get the speed lights out, we take a photograph of a scene that is underexposed. Okay, that makes it easy. And then once we've got that, we can all do that. We don't even need a speed light or a trigger to do this. Once you've got that dialed into your camera, you do not touch the camera again. That's what makes this process easier. Forget the camera because we don't need it. All we're going to be doing afterwards is adding in the speed light and turning that speed light up and turning it down. So remember that. Step 1. See the potential in the scene by looking at a bright object. Step 2, take a photo without even turning on the speed light of that scene underexposed. That's going to change what the scene looks like. Then we add in our couple or whoever it is that you're photographing. Then we light them and then we just critique the light. So let's go through that with some examples. Okay, so let's just pretend that this scene here is just an underexposed photograph, which it is, obviously. So this is, to the camera thinks this is too dark. I don't want to take a photograph like this, but we know as photographers that this is what we want. This is a good base layer exposure. Now, when we've got that base layer exposure, remember, this looks completely different to what the human eye would see, but we've underexposed. What's the brightest part of this photograph? It's the sky. So we've basically exposed for the sky. And we've done that by going with a low ISO and quite a quick shutter speed, whatever the shutter speed needs to be to get our settings right. And it's left us with this base layer. So we've got that. Remember, with our camera, we've not even got the speed lights out yet. So once we've got that, we've done the hard work. All we need to do then is think, okay, I'm a wedding photographer. I've got a couple. Where am I going to place that couple? For me, I'm going to place them in the bottom right of that photograph. When I place them there, all I need to do then is light them. And I'm going to just show you that now. Let's add in the couple. I'm going to go through how we light couples in a second, but for now, I'm just going through the process. There they are. Just one speed light behind the couple, easy. But remember, before we've even got the couple outside, I got the base layer. Got the base layer, and then I don't touch the camera again. That's the thing to remember, and that's what makes it easy. We don't touch the camera once you've took the underexposed photograph. You don't need to. All you need to do is change the speed light power using your trigger. That's it, not the camera dials. Here's another example. Really this is a scene that has huge potential, but it's messy. So we need to look at this, remember, like a camera does. So what does that mean? We're going to expose for these lights. All these LED lights that you can see, the light bulbs, let's pretend that we're looking at that like a camera would look at it, okay? Try and picture, before I show you what the next photograph is, what that would look like. I mean, look at all the distracting elements. We've got chairs, we've got tables, we've got people, we've got my camera bag in the bottom right there. It's just messy, but we don't look at it with our human eyes. We look at it like a camera looks at it. And that then allows us to create that photograph. I'm also shooting through a prism there as well, but the base is just look at that like a camera looks at it. Here's another one. That is just a sunset scene. In fact, the sun has already set, but we've still got some nice color in the sky. So what do? We expose for the brightest part of the sky. That makes the rest of the photograph underexposed. What do we do then? We then bring out our couple. We don't touch the camera, and we then just put a speed light behind the couple, and then we light them. And that gives us this. Actually, two speed lights there, one in front of the couple, one behind. Here's another scene. I'm exposing here for the wall lights that you see, the 4 lights in the middle, and I'm using a mirror to reflect back the photograph. But my exposure is for the lamps that you see on the wall. I then do not change my camera settings. I go and get my couple out. I put the speed light behind the couple again. I then just need to think, do I need that speed light to be stronger, more powerful, or weaker, less powerful? And then if I need to change the speed light power, I do so using my trigger. I do not touch the camera. Remember, this is the mantra. Do not touch the camera once you've got your base layer. And then we create that photograph. Again, although this was taken in quite bright ambient light, we can underexpose again for the brightest part of this photograph. Now in this example, the brightest part is actually the water in the waterfall. And if you ever look at water, especially in the daytime, you'll see it gets little bright areas as it falls, little bits of brightness. That's what I'm exposing for, so I'm not losing any detail. What that does is it means that we've got areas of this photograph that are very underexposed. And again, that is where the potential lies. So in the top left of the photograph, that's where I'm going to place my couple, and I'm going to light them. Gives us that. Hopefully what this process shows you is that it is a process. It is not difficult. It's just a question of learning the process and seeing the world like a camera sees it. I promise you it's easy. And hopefully you're seeing now that we don't need to, again, as I said at the beginning, don't need to worry about all this. It's all pointless. All we're doing is lighting our couple with this like a torch would. That's all we're doing. Then we're thinking, oh, actually, I need a bit more power. Let's turn the speed light up. Or I need a bit less power. It's all a bit too bright. Let's turn it down. But we are not touching the camera. And that is where I think a lot of people, when they're first trying to get into off-camera flash, struggle. And I've done this in the past many times as well. If you're a wedding photographer, for example, you'll get your couple out. You'll have all your lighting set up. You'll think, oh, I'm going to expose for this. I'm going to light the couple. You've not taken the base layer though, and you try and do it all in one exposure, in one go. And you'll take a photograph, you'll think, oh, it's all too bright. And then what do you do when that happens? When you're not experienced, you've not learned the process, you'll tend to go to here, the back of your camera, and you'll start changing all the camera settings. That's where you'll struggle. That's when you'll start to get flustered, you'll start to feel stressed, and you'll start to make mistakes. That's why it's a process. And that's why I promise you, when you learn the process, everything will fall into place. And when it does, you'll start to get confident. And when you get confident, you'll start to create really amazing images. And that's when you'll then start to think, okay, I've got confidence at doing this. Let's try and add in a second light or a third light. But it starts off by learning the basics. And the basics is this process that I'm showing you in this stream. Again, just to say again, if you could please like the stream, I'd be really grateful. We're up to 41 likes now, so thank you very much. But I can see that there are lots more people than 41 watching. So thank you for watching, and please do like the stream. I'll be really, really grateful if you wouldn't mind. Okay, let's go on to now another example. Oh, actually, no. We're going to talk about something really important now. We're going to talk about controlling the spread of the light, because much as I would love it to be as easy as I'm saying in this stream, and trust me, it's virtually as easy as that, we need to add in something else to the process. Let's go through the steps again. 1, seeing the potential with your eye, looking for bright objects in the scene. 2, creating the base layer. We're underexposing with our camera, taking that base image. We then don't touch the camera again. We then decide where we're going to place our couple. We then light the couple. Now, this is where we need to then start thinking about how we're going to control the spread of the light, because controlling the spread of the light is really important, and that is what makes the difference between a really good off-camera flash photograph where you're controlling the light compared to a bad off-camera flash photograph where you're not controlling the light and it's just hitting the couple, and it's also hitting the background, and it's hitting everything else. It's bouncing around, and it just makes it look really messy. We need to learn to control the light to finesse the light, and that is what will give us really good results. Now, the good news is it's very simple to do using modifiers. Now, if you've watched my channel, you are bound to know how much I love MagMod modifiers. Now, I can tell you now that I'm very proud and have been for a number of years now to be a MagMod ambassador. But this is what I will always promise you, and hope, again, this comes across when you watch my channel. I will only ever be honest with you. And MagMod is the reason I'm so proud to use them. It's not because I'm an ambassador for them. It's because they get the job done. And I was using MagMod modifiers for years before they approached me and asked me if I would like to be an ambassador for them. So the reason that they asked me is because I was using them. And I can tell you now, a little peek behind the YouTube curtain, I get asked by a lot of companies to review their products, a lot. Some of them I'm tempted by, usually if it's lenses or anything that I'm going to use, then I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm happy to review that. What these companies do, they will send you this stuff for free in the hope that they're going to get a nice video review out of it. And I don't want to just accept all this stuff to review it just for the sake of getting it for free, because what's the point in that? I will only ever review things that I'm interested in and that I think is going to be good. And trust me, on a daily basis, I'm being asked to review this, that, and the other, and a lot of it is random, but I don't accept it because there's no point. I'm not going to use it, and I wouldn't make a video just for the sake of getting something for free. MagMod is different. I use MagMod for years. I use MagMod. Remember as well, I'm not a YouTuber. I am not a YouTuber. I am a wedding photographer. I make my income by going out, as I'm sure many of you do, and shooting weddings at the weekends. That's how I make my money. My sole income is photography, but I am not making my money through YouTube. So there's no point in me trying to, be dishonest with you. So I use MagMod every single shoot I do, whether it's for YouTube, whether it's for weddings, whether it's just for fun. I'm always using MagMod, and I promise you, from the bottom of my heart, I am telling you that MagMod is the best. Anyway, other modifiers are available, but I'm sure if you use the modifiers, you'll end up buying MagMod anyway. So let's get into why MagMod modifiers are so useful. Let's go back to this scene. In the middle of that photograph, you will see a light stand with a speed light on it, which has a snoot. Now, what that snoot is going to do, I'm going to demonstrate this in a second, but that snoot is going to help us control the spread of the light. It's going to stop the light from hitting the door frame and making that scene look messy. So the light is only going to hit the couple that they're going to stand in the middle of that frame, not the door frames. That is what is going to give us the controlled light. And you can imagine if that scene didn't have a snoot on it, the door frame on the left and the right of the couple would be lit up. It would be distracting. We don't want it to be distracting, obviously, so we need to control the light. Here's an example of why MagMod is so useful. Let me just take that off for a second. So this was an exercise that I did for a video. You can actually check back on my channel and watch this video. And what I was trying to do here was just hit the X on the wall with a off-camera flash, because I want to practice controlling the spread of the light. Because again, if we don't control the spread, it's going to just make messy images. So this is what I would do. If this is just a bare speed light, this was just a V860 speed light. So one of these speed lights, bare, no modifier, without it being zoomed in. So it's zoomed out to 24mm. And if you just turn on a speed light, this is probably what you're going to get. Now, as you'd expect, because we've zoomed out this flash, it's hitting everywhere. It is not controlled light. So it's not very good. So what you think, oh, well, I'll tell you what we can do then. Why don't we just zoom in the speed light? That'll do it. Will it though? Because when we do that, that is zoomed into 200mm, but look how messy it looks. Look how ugly the edges are. Like, yes, you are controlling the light a bit better, but it's still really ugly light. And that is as good as we can get with a V860. Now, there are other speed lights available, such as the round-headed ones, like an AD100, for example, in the Godox range, Profoto, for example, which will give you nice, pleasing edges. but it's still not going to be great because we're still going to have more spill than we want. So we need to then introduce a modifier. So let's do that. Let's introduce one grid and look at the difference that a grid makes. Now, if you're not aware, a grid is a little piece of rubber that we just put onto our speed light, and it changes the control. So here's our speed light, here's our grid. This is a MagMod grid. It's magnetic. Not a lot of people, I think, realize that MagMod stands for magnetic. Magnetic modifiers. Boom. That goes on there, and instantly the light changes. So we've gone from there, no modifier, to there with a grid. But we're still getting spill. 2 grids, we're getting better. Now, in reality, this is, as much as I would ever really need to do on a wedding day, but let's try and get it even better. This is adding the MagSphere on. Now, some people aren't aware of what the MagSphere does, or there's a bit of confusion sometimes about why you would use a MagSphere as well as a grid. So let me just explain now. So we've got our speed light. The grid is going to control the spill of the light, if you just saw. So rather than the light coming out like that sort of angle, it starts to be controlled and comes out very centrally like this, like a beam of light. Just imagine a beam of light rather than just a big, wide, haphazard light coming out of the speed light. But the edges of the light that comes out of just this setup look a little bit harsh. So again, let's just go back to the example. This is just a grid. If you look at the edges there, you can almost see how the contrast between the light area and the dark area is quite defined, okay? But we don't always want that. We want the light to soften around the edges. Especially when you're taking portraits, you don't want that light, dark. You want light, dark, molding, blending into the dark. That is what the MagSphere does. You can see there. Look at the edges. See how the edges become really soft. Now, people say that the MagSphere doesn't soften. And in a way it doesn't, but I'm not talking about the central part of the photograph. I'm talking about the edges. That is the difference. That is why a lot of if I'm working very quickly on a wedding day, my go-to setup is a grid and the sphere, because it gives me that nice soft edge to the light that I'm producing. Now let's go back now and try and just hit the X. Just going to turn my camera off a second. This is the mag snoot. Zoomed out, and I'm going to show you this mag snoot in a second. We're going to extend the snoot. Oh, we're getting there really close now. That's fully extended. And what happens if we throw everything at this? 2 grids and a mag snoot, we achieve what we wanted to achieve. We've now just created a beam of light that is hitting the X and nothing else. So we've gone from, there, no modifier, flash zoomed out, to there. That is why modifiers are so useful. So let me just explain to you what the snoot does, if you're not aware. So a snoot, a bit like with the grid, is designed to control the spill. Now, in reality, a grid or 2 grids is as much as I need to control on a wedding day. But just to show you what we can do, we put the snoot on, and you can see here, it's a bit like looking, like a target. And the more that we pull the snoot out and extend it out, the narrower the beam of light becomes. So we can pull it out all the way, like that, and you've got a tiny little beam of light. Say, in reality, I don't really use the snoot very much because I don't need to, but there are times, especially if you're shooting detail photographs, where the snoot is really useful. But that's just to explain what the snoot does. Again, just to be annoying, if you could please like the stream. We're up to 83 people watching. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. As I said at the beginning of the stream, This YouTube channel has been so important to me. I love making videos, and I love you all for subscribing and for all your support. If you could please like the stream, I'd be very, very grateful. It just helps get the stream out. In fact, can we get to 65 likes? Hopefully we can, because there's 86 people watching and we've got 57 likes. So just another 8 to go. And I promise you, I will make this stream worthwhile. Again, please let me know. Oh, there are some questions. Thank you for the questions. Hi from Debbie. Hi, Andy. Question from Hi Bowler. Andy says, hi, Neil. In fact, I can add the question. Hi, Neil. Do you use the zoom flash wide or narrow? Is it dependent on the scene? That's a great question, Andy. Really good question. Thank you for asking. So I tend to just have my speed light zoomed in to about 85mm. It doesn't actually matter in a way, because virtually all the time when I'm using my speed lights, I'm using a modifier. I'm usually using the grid. And the grid, I don't know the actual physics or the science for the exact number here, but the grid probably zooms in the speed light to the equivalent of about 250 or 300mm. So even if you had your speed light zoomed out at 24mm, if you put a grid on it, it makes it 250. So you might as well, rather than having the beam of light going like that, you might as well channel it a bit more front focus, so you're not losing the power. So yeah, to answer your question, I'll say that the majority of my speed lights are probably set to 85mm. Yeah, 85mm. So I tend to put it on there and then just leave it. I don't ever change the zoom of the speed lights because I'm using modifier. But that's a great question. Thank you very much for asking. Hi, VJ from India. Thank you so much. I have a lot of people watch my channel. I appreciate you all. Thank you so much. Hi, Debbie from St. Louis in Missouri. Again, amazing that people are watching all over. Thank you, Mark. Mark says, great advice, Neil. Thank you very much, Mark. Massive thank you to you. I love your work, Mark. Big fan of your work. So yeah, that really means a lot. Barry says, very informative, Neil, and very well explained. Thank you. Thank you. I really do appreciate it. I think I've got okay explaining. One of the reasons that I think I've got better at explaining this sort of stuff is because I do so much education in my Patreon, in Flashmasters, with workshops, and the more I do, I feel as though I get a little bit better. I'd hope to think. So thank you. Gavin, hi Gavin for watching. Do you use a snoop for the majority of the time when behind the couple? No, I don't. If I've got a speed light behind the couple, I'm usually bare speed light, and the reason for that is I'll explain later. I don't ever use bare speed lights if I'm outdoor with no modifier, because I want the spread. For rain photographs, for example, you want the spread of the light. So you don't want to limit the spread. You want to light up all the rain. That's one occasion where I'd have no modifier. And the other is just if I'm outside and there's nothing else for the speed light to hit. Doesn't really matter if I've got a modifier on or not then, because there's nothing for that light to hit and cause distraction. So that's the only other time. If I'm indoors, I can't think of any situation where I'm not using a modifier. And if I am backlighting, it will always be the grid. But I never use the snoop to backlight, no. Nothing wrong if you do. It's just that the beam will be so small that you're going to have to go quite far away to get the light. And the further away you have your speed light, the more power you need. Question here, why not the mag mask? I'm not sure what the mag mask is. If you could please let me know a little bit more about what you mean, if that's okay. Apologies. Why not the mag grid? Hopefully, I think I probably answered this already, but I will have missed that question. Thank you for your question. Hopefully I've asked it. If answered it. If not, please do let me know. Hi, Mike. Cheers from Berlin. Hi to everybody in Germany. Hi, Jack. Hi, Sean. Sean says he loves MagMod. Hi, Sean. Hi, Sevra from India. Hi, Dion. So many people watching. Thank you. Hi, Sean. Question from Sean. I currently have this 24-inch softbox. Would you recommend to upgrade to the 42-inch softbox for headshots? Personally, yes. Yes, I love the Magbox Pro 42. It is my favorite light source. It is, however, big. So you need to weigh that up. It's not as practical as the 24. Obviously, it's a bigger light source, so it needs a bigger bag. You need a bigger light stand to have it. It can blow a little bit in the wind, but the light quality from the 42 is mwah. It is really nice. It is beautiful. So if I'm taking indoor portraits, if I can, I'll try and use the 42 because it's the best quality of light. Why is it the best quality of light? Because the light source is big. And the bigger the light source, the softer the light becomes. So that's why in studios, you'll see massive softboxes really close to the subject, because the closer the light source, the softer the light. Some people, sometimes it's easy to get confused with this, but the way I always explain it is, if you can imagine you're out on the street on a really sunny day. The sun's shining, it's really high in the sky. Let's say it's 2 p.m. in the afternoon, and you're stood on the street and the sun is really bright. Think of what your shadow looks like on the floor. Does that shadow have a hard edge, or does it have a soft edge? It has a hard edge because the light source is small, because the light source is far away. The sun is miles away. So the further away the light source, the harsher the light. That is why our shadow on the floor is harsh, because the light source is far away. Now picture what happens to our shadow when a cloud comes and the cloud is coming between us and the sun. The shadow becomes fainter. It becomes blended. The contrast between the light and the dark becomes very graduated. Why does that happen? Because the light source is no longer the sun, it is the cloud. And the cloud is infinitely closer than the sun. So the light source is closer, and that is making softer light. Hopefully that's just a way of proving the science of it. So we can then use those physics to think, okay, let's have a big light source like a 42-inch mag box. That's going to give us soft light. Why do we want soft light for portraits? Because we often don't want to see the harsh contrast between light and shadow. We want that light and shadow to blend and just become really soft, especially if you're taking light close-up portraits. That's why I personally will always choose the 42-inch mag box. But it's bigger, so it becomes a question of practicality. I hope that answers the question, but thank you very much. Again, wow, 93 people now, 77 likes. Thank you, everyone. Can we be cheeky and hit 80? I would love you forever. 80 likes would be amazing. Hi from New York. I do have a podcast where I did make a bit of an idiot of myself trying to do a New York accent, but I'll do it now. It's a 50,000 subscriber special. Hi to everybody who's watching in New York. So yeah, if you want to listen to my podcast that I do with my partner Helen, it is Flashmasters. So just go onto Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to your podcast, type in Flashmasters. We're nearly at 50 episodes now. Yeah, I don't know how we've done that. It's a weekly podcast where we discuss anything and everything to do with wedding photography in a very informal way. They are not serious podcasts. Yeah, Flashmasters podcast if you want to have a listen to that. But yeah, hi Michael. Key element so far, don't touch the camera. Yes, exactly, Michael. Adjust the flash once you have your ambient exposure set in camera. Exactly. That's when it all becomes really, really easy. Thank you, Michael, for that comment. If I could have that comment tattooed, that'll be what I have. And Les says, purchase my first MagMod setup. Any advice on scenarios, places to get used to using it? Purchase for a wedding coming up. Thank you. Yes. Just keep on watching the stream, Les, and we'll get into that. Thank you for watching, and I know you're going to love your new purchase. Thank you. Right, we're going to get back to the questions in a minute. We'll get back to the good stuff. So yeah, there we go. That's why MagMod is so useful. So let's go through the 5 steps again, because this is the key thing. First of all, we want to identify and underexpose for the brightest part of the scene. That's going to give us a really cool underexposed image with potential. Okay, number 2, once you're happy with that underexposed photograph, do not change your camera settings. The only time you would change your camera settings is if you're outside and the ambient is changing. So the pre-existing light is changing. Say, for example, you take your layer 1 at sunset, Then you go and get your couple, you come outside and 15 minutes have passed. Then the ambient has changed. So you want to then take layer 1 again. But in the main, let's just get layer 1 and not change it. Because once you've got that dialed in, all you need to do then is change the flash power. Okay, so number 3, we're going to just decide in that potential where we're going to place our couple. 4, we're going to light the couple. And we're then going to critique that photograph. And all we're going to do then is think, right, are we controlling the light? Is the light controlled well enough? If not, we're going to add in modifiers. If it is, are the couple too bright? If they are, we don't change the camera settings. Remember what Michael said, we do not change the camera settings. If the couple are too bright, we change our speed light power. We to bring it down. If the couple are too dark, we turn up the speed light power. Now, this is going to be where I'm going to introduce or explain to you now and show you what trigger I use. I am a huge fan of the Godox X2T trigger. And I can let you into a secret as well. I would love to be associated with Godox, but they've never got in touch. But I will always recommend their products because they are the best on the market. Certainly for the price. There are better out there, begin with P. I'm sure you know who they are, but very expensive. Too expensive for me, Profoto. Too expensive for me, so I use Godox, and I think these triggers are amazing. No affiliation, unfortunately, with Godox. If you're watching Godox, please get in touch, because I would love to promote you, but I do anyway. But yeah, the Godox X2T is my trigger of choice. A few reasons why. Firstly, I know that another really popular Godox trigger is the X Pro. It's a great trigger. Nothing wrong with the X Pro, but for me, it has 2 big disadvantages over the X2T. Firstly, as you can see here, the X2T has a hot shoe. So I can use on-camera flash at the same time as using off-camera flash. Can't do that with the X Pro. Can't do that with a lot of triggers. So you're limiting what you can do if you're using a trigger that does not have a hot shoe mount on it. Plus, this is the biggest thing for me. And hopefully we'll get a chance to go through my speeches setup, depending on how we're doing for time. But I love the fact that I can turn on and off different groups within 2 clicks of a button. So a lot of my speed light setups, especially when I'm shooting documentary wedding photography, I have a series of different speed light setup, maybe 3 or even 4 speed lights, but I don't want to always have all of them turned on. So for speeches, for example, I have a 3 light setup. If you're a member of my Patreon or Flashmasters, you will have already seen me talking about this and talking through the flash setup that I use for speeches. I basically have 3 speed lights facing the top table, but I'm only using 2 of them at any one time. And the one that I'm turning off is the one that's positioned behind me. Because if that one is on, in effect, it's going to give the effect of on-camera flash, which is flat light. We don't want flat light, we want directional light. That's why off-camera flash is so effective, because the flash, the light source, is coming from a direction different to the camera. That gives us contrasty light. If the light source is coming from here and just hitting me straight on, it's just lighting me broad. It's hitting everything. It's flat light. We want the light source to come from this direction to make contrast. So when I'm shooting speeches, I only use 2 of the 3. So I want to be able to move around, and I might want to turn off flash A and turn on flash C. And I want to do that quickly. With the trigger like the X Pro, you have to press a button, spin a wheel, press another button, then do the same for another, then press B, scroll the wheel, press another button. It takes too long. If I can show you now, I'm going to turn off all my speed lights. See here, it says A. A is now on. Turn A off. Turn B on. Let's turn C on. Let's turn B off. Let's turn A on. See how quick it is? That to me is invaluable. It's invaluable. That is why to me, that is the best trigger you can get if using Godox, the X2T. Right, so let's move on to some examples now No, my pleasure. Sean said, thank you for answering my question. Pleasure, Sean. Blah, 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 blah. Let's have a look. Hi, Neil. How about using light tubes such as the LC500R? I'm not sure what that is. Thank you for the question, Vape. I'm not sure of that. I do use LED lights sometimes. I have a rotor light, and I also have some Godox constant lights, but I don't use that one. But I do use constant lights sometimes. There are advantages. Like, for example, if you want to, it's very rare that I do this, but if I want to light a wedding ceremony, for example, I don't like to do that with flash personally. Nothing wrong if you do, but I do use constant lights. I just find they're a little bit less distracting. So that's when I do use video lights, and they can be really useful. Just bear in mind that with a video light, you don't have the same advantages of shooting with different shutter speeds, because you get blur if you're shooting at slow shutter speeds. Whereas if you're using flash, you can freeze the subject. Again, I will talk about that a little bit later in the stream. But good question. Why not use the 860 as the trigger on camera? Yeah, you could do that, Robert. What Robert's saying there is you could use this as the trigger. I've just never done that. I've never tried it. So I think you'd also need line of sight to do that, which could be limiting. So I've just got very used to using this. Plus, there is another reason as well, actually thinking on it. It's a big one. It's a huge one. One thing that is a pain if you are using Sony and Godox together is that these hot shoes break so easily. It's just annoying. So I don't ever really like to have the speed light on my camera like that, because I've done it a few times and these just break off. So that's a good reason not to have your speed light on your camera, whereas this is fine. But you can do it. Yeah, good question. So Andy says, yeah, forget about paying over 1,000 for a speed light. Godox for the win. Yeah, you said it, Andy. No, my pleasure, Sean. Aloha photographers, when using speed lights, would you always zoom the head? Yeah, I have my zoom set to about 85mm. Doesn't really matter if you're using modifiers, because the modifiers will override whatever zoom you're set to. And Paul Flanagan, hi Paul, hope you're well. Paul's a good friend of mine. He said you think you might pick the X2T up. I don't know what you're using, Paul, but yeah, get onto the X2T train. All aboard. Andy says, hi Andy, another fantastic photographer joining us. It's the same with the Pro, just push mode B mode, no dials needed. Oh, did not know that. When I was using the X Pro, it needed the wheel, which was always my frustration with it. So if it's changed, I apologize. I'm just not aware of that. And Freak Exos Studio says, hi to you too. Right, let's go to some more examples. Let me just close this. So I'm just going to show you now, just going to take that off the screen as well, just show you now just some examples where you can just use one light. Sometimes people fall into the trap of thinking to create effective off-camera flash images, you've got to have all these different speed lights everywhere. You don't. In fact, my advice, if you are relatively new to off-camera flash and you're just getting used to it, you're just practicing, don't complicate things. Just use one speed light. It makes everything so much easier. So let's go through some examples now where I've just used one light. All these are just one light behind the couple. They're all very similar, so won't need to explain much about each individual one. What I will say is, for shots like this where I'm outside, this is where I would have no modifier on the light that's behind the couple, because I want the spread. If we had a grid on, in this example, for example, you wouldn't see, you wouldn't see all the raindrops, because the light would be more like a beam. So I want you to see the raindrops, so I don't use a modifier for backlighting when I'm outside, or virtually never anyway. This is another example. If I would have used a grid on this shot here, you wouldn't see the light on the building, and I feel like you want to see the light on the building in order to add context to the photograph. It sort of shows you the scene a little bit more. Again, now this is going through the same process that I spoke about at the beginning of the stream, which is what this stream's all about. This is me exposing this, what you see there, the fairy lights. This is in a theatre, my friend Jonathan. This is in a theatre where there's like hanging LED lights from the ceiling, and I'm shooting through them, and the couple, Rebecca and Jonathan, are on the stage, so I'm exposing for the LED lights. That's making everything else go very dark. I'm putting one light behind the couple, and then all I'll be doing again is just critiquing myself and thinking, I'll take a picture with my camera, I'll look at it and think, are the couple too bright? If they are, I just get I turn the trigger on, and I'll just turn the speed light power down. To show you how easy that is to do, let's turn the trigger on again. Really simple. Let's say turn A on. And you can see here, let's try and get it closer. I just use this wheel at the bottom just to change the flash power. Now, most of the time, my go-to flash power for indoors will be here, a 16th. Oh, sorry, 16th. Maybe 32, but usually 16th or 32 will get you more or less where you want to be in camera without even needing to take a test shot. If you're outdoors, you'll need more power. So that's when you might be going up to like an 8th power, depending on if you're backlighting or front lighting. We can talk about flash powers a little bit more in a second. But yeah, so I'll critique myself, and then all I'm doing is turn the flash power up or down. I am not changing the camera settings. That's, again, the key thing. So I would have got the base layer in before I've turned on the trigger. Really important. Okay, let's look at some other examples. All these are basically the same photograph. Now with this one, actually, that I didn't have any ambient to light to expose for, more or less. It's all done in camera. It was all me. I was adding all the light here, but this is just one light behind the couple with a reflection. Now, I'm sure if you watch my channel, you will have seen me doing this before, but just in case you're not aware of how I create reflections, you can use your phone to create reflections, but there is a disadvantage to using your phone. And that is, if I show you my phone, let me just, I'll turn my phone off and you can see. Because the problem these days with phones is, there's Siri. The problem with phones, every time you lift it up, the screen comes on. So that's not good for a start, because it's not going to give you a good reflection. But if you use your phone to create a reflection, you do that, by the way, by this. If you want to create a reflection, my advice is use a 35mm lens. That is the best focal length, in my opinion, to use this technique on. 35mm. Also, you want to shoot wide open with your aperture. So this is my favorite lens, the little Sony 35mm 1.8 lens. So I want to shoot this at 1.8. So go wide open, and I'll put the phone there. And that is where I would position it in order to create the reflection. And it's a really cool little trick that you can use to just add creativity to your photographs. But I don't use the phone anymore. Why? Because the screen of the phone is dark. It's a dark piece of glass. So that means that the underexposed area that we're creating in camera, so that means that the reflected area that we're creating in camera is underexposed. So it just requires more editing in post in order to balance out the reality exposure and the reflected exposure. What is far better is a makeup mirror like this, which I just bought off Amazon. Just literally open it up. Now this reflection is sheer reflection. It is reflecting back reality. Let's just try and put it there. If I can, this is tricky to do. Can I do this? Either way, you get the idea. But the exposure is the same. If I put that there, look at the exposure in the reflection of me. It's the same. That's the same as there. Do it with a phone. See my exposure, my reflection is underexposed. There you go. There's the proof. So a makeup mirror, it's like £6-7. I don't know what that is, $7 or $8. Far, far better. So have one of these in your bag. That's my advice if you want to create the photographs that we're looking at. So again, you will have seen, it's exactly the same process. This particular mirror has two mirrors. This one is zoomed in. I don't use that one. I use this side. In fact, you can see there, that reflection is not good. This one, well, it's not good because it's my face, but you get the idea. I don't use this one, so I'll use the reflection like this. That's where I'll position it. There's a thumbnail if ever I saw one. Okay, that's how you do it. Let's just go some more examples here where I've used one light. Again, one light behind. I'm going to fly through these, exposing for the ceiling lights. Same thing. Now, this is a shot indoors. So again, that's another example of where you really want to control the light. Because if I wasn't using a modifier here, this would have been 1 or maybe 2 grids. The light would have been bouncing everywhere and it would have reflected back onto the wall. It would have looked all very messy. That's an example of where we really want to keep the light controlled. Simple, all the same technique. It just shows you can use it in a variety of different situations. You just need to see the potential of where it works well. Little video to go with this one. Now, this is an example of where, rather than having the speed light behind the couple and facing the couple, in this example, I've got the speed light pointing behind the couple, like this. So, not facing them, facing away from them. And on that speed light will be one grid that creates a circle of light and a gel. We'll talk about them in a second, but I'll show you a little bit behind the scenes of this one. So that's what it looked like to the human eye. And this is what I saw. This is the potential here. Those ceiling lights. That is what I wanted to shoot through. So I wanted to position my camera high up and shoot through those LED lights. And I wanted to place my speed light right in the middle of, as you see there, we've got like an orange lamp. This is all from the venue. These are not my lights. The orange light and the pinkish light, the uplighters, that is going to give me a frame to put the couple in the middle, and I'm putting the light stand in the middle of those two uplighters, facing the curtain with a grid and a red gel. All that I need to do then, when I turn on my speed light, that's going to create a circle of light, and whatever we place in front of that turns into a silhouette. That is where we can see the potential of creating a photograph like you see in the end result here. There we go. That's what the human eye sees. That's what you can produce with off-camera flash. Cool. Okay, let's go back to our questions. Then I'm going to show you how we can create really cool photographs where we've got the light, one light in front. We'll move on to that in a second. Let's just see how we're doing with the questions. Just come across your videos today. Spent the morning watching them today. Graham, thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. There's nearly 200 videos now, which is mad. Don't know how I've made that many, but yeah, 200 videos to get through. Hopefully you find them useful. Helen, this is weird because Helen is in the room over there. Says the X2T is fab. Oh, good point, Helen. Yes. Helen made a very good point there, which if you want to film behind the scenes, which for wedding photographer these days, for wedding photographers rather, is really useful, then you can just use off-camera flash and put a GoPro on there or Insta360 camera, which is what I start to do now. And you just turn on that, you forget it's there, and you're capturing really cool behind the scenes that you can then use on your social media. That's a great point. Thank you. Hi, Carolina from Pennsylvania. Hi, Hui. I hope I've got your name wrong. Name right, sorry. Thank you very much for joining. Question from Hui as well. Do you critique another photographer's pictures? Yes, I do this regularly. So, little 5-minute ad, everyone. Be really quick. I have 2 online education communities which I am so proud of and which I put so much into. These days, like 50% of my business is going out and shooting weddings. 50% is education. And I love both in equal measure. I always want to shoot weddings and I'll always be a wedding photographer, but I love so much teaching other photographers, hopefully helping other photographers get better, in particular with their off-camera flash and other areas of their business. And I do that in 2 ways. I've got 2 communities, basically. One is my Patreon. And hopefully, if any of my Patreon members are watching, they will be kind enough to let me know in the comments why they are a member. And hopefully, you know, you can hear it from them why that community is so special to me and to hopefully all the members. And I know it'll sound like I'm just saying this, But trust me, those who know. And my Patreon it's the best community that I know of, online community. They are such a supportive group of photographers. So the Patreon basically is an online subscription. It's really cheap. It's like £6.95 a month. You can join that at any time. You can leave at any time. You can get a free 7-day trial. You can join it 7 days, leave, you don't pay a penny. But you'll get access to everything, and everything is a lot. Everything is 350 hours of videos. And what we do is we do 3 live streams a month in the Patreon, and they cover everything to do with wedding photography and the business of wedding photography, from critiques to how I edit streams, to having guests on. We've had loads of companies on. We speak to other photographers, and you can join those streams live. They're all done over Zoom and just speak. And we all get together 3 times a month and just chat and all learn together. And it's brilliant. And within that Patreon, I critique regularly. I think in the past 2 or 3 months, I've done 2 or 3 live streams where I've critiqued, and I critique full weddings of members. I critique individual images. We do it regularly, and I'd like to think that we all learn together. So it's that. I'm not going to talk about Flashmasters just yet. I don't want to spend too long talking about these things, but I promise you, if you want to learn and grow your wedding photography business, what is scrolling across there is invaluable. And I'm saying it's free for 7 days. You've got literally nothing to lose. And at most, if you want to just have it for a month, you're going to spend $8 and then you just leave. Just leave. But most people don't leave. And I'm really proud of that. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. Right, let's go back to the good stuff. Right, so here are examples of where I've just used one light in front. Now you'll see here that the light source, which is being held by my friend here, Tony Darcy. So big thank you to Tony for helping me with this particular photograph. The light source is in the photo. Now that's not a problem as long as you also remember to take a photograph where the light source is not in the photograph. So what I will do is, for something like this, I will take 2 photographs, one with the light source in and then one with the light source out. And it just means that in between those 2 exposures, I have to remain really still. Ideally, you'd use a tripod for this, but if not, then you can just stay really still and you can still get, effective results. Again, going back to the Patreon, I've done how I shot it videos for things like this, where you see exactly how I use Photoshop to blend these 2 composite images together. Also, to let you know, full transparency, if you don't want to join the Patreon, there is a video coming out in the next 2 weeks or so where I show you how I do this. So there you go. It's not all the sales pitch. There is a video coming where you'll see how I do it. But the key thing is you want to remain still between the 2 exposures. Now you might think, well, why do you want the light source in the photograph? Just have it outside of the photograph and you don't have to worry then about taking 2 exposures. The reason is what we said before, that the closer the light source, the softer the light will be. Plus, we've got more control over the light because it's closer to the subject. That means that we're going to have less spill. Inverse square law means that the shorter the gap between the light source and the subject, the shorter the fall off will be. So it's not going to hit the background as much. So that's the reason that you want to have oftentimes your light source in the photograph. But that does mean you've got to edit that, the slight light source and the assistant, as in this case, out afterwards. So let me just show you. Sorry, 1 second. And there we go. That's the light source out. So that's 2 photographs there, composited together. This is one that we saw before. Now, if you've not seen this video, I am just going to show you this because this was probably the craziest shoot I've ever done. I just want to show you a little clip of this. But bearing in mind that what we're doing here is exposing, as I mentioned earlier, for the waterfall. That's given us a very underexposed scene. This is it taken in Iceland. It's hard to get your head around until you see like the behind the scenes of this. We're going to show you in a second. Ken and Vicky, the bride and groom here, stood on a ledge, and my partner Helen very kindly stood in front of them with a speed light with a mag sphere on. And lit the couple, and it was one of the craziest shoots I've ever done. I'll show you a little bit of behind the scenes of that now. It was madness. Massive thank you to Ken and Vicky for doing this, and for Helen. They got absolutely drenched. Here in this video, creating this image wasn't easy,
not showing.
But with dedication and by working as a team, we created an image that I will forever be proud of.
There we go.
I think that was pretty cool. I can't resist going over to Vicky and Ken now and seeing just what it was like where they were. Let's have a look where they were stood. Oh my God! Oh my God! If it helps, that could be the best photograph I've ever taken.
I hope so.
It looks epic. Look at this!
Dedication to the art.
Whoa! That was madness. Honestly, it was absolute madness. So huge thank you to Vicky and Ken for inviting me to Iceland, but also for that commitment. I mean, wow. They were head to toe drenched, as was Helen. So that was a proper, real team effort, that photograph. And I'm really proud of it. I think one of the reasons I love that one so much is just because of the experience. And I'll always remember just the madness of that shoot. It was, yeah, unbelievable. So there we go. That was the end result. But again, it's only one speed light. That's all it, well, I mean, it helps when you got an amazing waterfall like that, but it was only one speed light. You know, it wasn't anything overly complicated. Say that was taken about an hour afterwards. Again, one speed light. With so many of these photographs, the speed light is in the frame. And then I've composited it out afterwards. Helen very kindly lit this one as well. So Helen would have been stood, as you look at it, just to the left of Vicky and Ken, and then I've composited her out. Again, there's a video on my channel where you can see the full behind the scenes of that shoot, if you want to do that. Now, this is one which, same technique, I'm exposing for the brightest part of the photograph, which in this example is candles. So I'm exposing for the candles, everything else goes underexposed, and I've placed a light source in front of the model, and in this case, this was the Magbox. I think it might have been either the Magbox 42 or 24, I can't quite remember, but it was in the frame, and then I've composited it out again. But again, same process. I'm exposing for the brightest part of the photograph. That's key. Then everything else goes dark. Then I take the base layer. I do not touch the camera again. All I'm going to do is add in the light source, light the model, and then just change the speed light power. Hopefully now you're seeing that the process is easy. It's just getting the process done. Once you get the process in your head, it all becomes so much easier. All this is on a real wedding day, taken in seconds, where I'm working really fast, just after the bride's ready, just before she leaves the room and goes to walk down the aisle. And I've exposed here for the lights that you see on the ceiling. That's going to make the rest of the scene go underexposed. Place one light source, and this will have been, again, my go-to indoor setup when I'm working quickly, which is one speed light, the V860 with a grid on it, and the Magsphere. Pointing down, you want to, oftentimes for portraits, you want to have your light source high, pointing down, because that's where the flattering light exists, and that's when you'll get, you know, the best, most flattering light. But you can do this quickly. I was shooting this wedding on my own, just put one light on a light stand, boom. You just need to go through the process. So that would have took me as long as it takes to take an underexposed photograph, then not touch the camera, ask the bride to go sit on the chair, just position her, get the pose like I want it, and then turn the speed light on, take a photo. Is the bride too bright? Yes. Let's turn the speed light power down then. Is she too dark? Yes. Let's turn the speed light power up. It's easy. It just takes practice. And this is exactly the same photograph. Another wedding, another bride, real wedding day again, but again, the same process. And the key, I've said something there that I want to just like talk about a little bit more, because it sounds really obvious, but I don't think we always do it enough. And that is simply to practice. One of the best things you can do is just practice, whether that's getting a model, whether that's shooting your partner, your children, your cat, a mannequin, whatever it is, a Coke can. Just practice. The more you practice, the more all this becomes second nature. You want to get to a stage where this camera feels so at one with your hand that you're changing the dials, you're changing everything without even looking, instinctively. Now, when you first get a camera, it's difficult, especially if you've got a new camera, because you need to look down all the time and what's this doing, what's that doing. You're not at one with it. You get there by using the camera, and you can obviously, you will get better by going out and shooting weddings regularly, paid work regularly, but you can really fast track it by just at home practicing. And the great thing about practicing is you're shooting without pressure. And what that allows you to do is think. Because one of the hardest things to do is to think clearly when everything around you is chaotic. And that's what wedding days are. They're chaos. So the worst thing to do is try and do one of these things on a wedding day, one of these photographs on a wedding day, with all these different, your mind's going at 100 miles an hour. You've got the pressure of the day. You've got people around watching. You've got maybe a couple there who are thinking, why are you taking forever with this? And it puts you under so much pressure. You can take that away by just photographing a Coke can in your living room. But by doing that over and over and over again, it all becomes instinctive. And that's why you can then create photographs like this within 30 seconds on a wedding day, because you've done it loads of times before in your living room. If you want to take it one step further, hire a model, or just get a friend and just ask them just to stand there. And by doing that, I promise you, it becomes easy. And the moment it becomes easy, confidence happens. And that is invaluable. The confidence is what changes everything for you. Again, real wedding day, the light source was in the photograph. It was just in front of the couple. And then I've composited it out afterwards. Or in this case, probably just cloned it out. I don't think I would have been so far away from the light source here. And because I'm working on my own, I wouldn't have been able to composite it out, because I would have need to go away, move the light stand, come back, and I would have been in a different position. So with a photograph like this, I place the light source in an area of the photograph that I know I can easily clone out in Lightroom or Photoshop. Again, if you're a member of Flashmasters, or if you're a member of my Patreon, there are lots of videos where I show you exactly how I do this. Another example from an engagement shoot a few weeks ago. In fact, I'm shooting this couple's wedding in just a couple of weeks. Can't wait for that one. But yeah, my light source here was just on the edge of this cliff. A little bit scary, but it survived. This is me. You might recognize this photograph if you're a subscriber to my channel, because there is a video all about this photograph and how I created it on my channel. But this is me shooting through LED Christmas lights, and I'm lighting my friend Demi here. Special shout out to Demi, by the way. She's been in so many of my videos, as has my other good friend James. Like, they've been in loads of them, and Demi's a massive part of why I've got to this milestone on YouTube. So thank you, Demi. I'm always grateful for everything you do, and I've loved making videos with you over the years. Like, Demi is brilliant. So yeah, I've lit Demi here with again, my go-to setup. I think it was just a grid and a sphere. You can see the whole behind the scenes on my channel. Really simple shot of a bride and groom here from a real wedding about a month ago. This is Ryan and Rabia. Brilliant wedding day. With this one, this was again 2 photographs composited together, taken with the Magbox Pro 42 Octa. That again was in the photograph. It would have been positioned just where you see the tree trunk. That would be where the speed light was. Big thank you again to my friend Tony for helping me with this wedding, because when I was taking this, Tony was by the light stand. And then once I said, yeah, I've got it now, I will not move, I'll stay still, Tony will take away the Magbox. I'll take another photograph. Obviously, the couple are not lit in that second one, but in the second one, I have the background and I composite the 2 photographs together. It's a really, really effective technique. And I've started doing this a lot more recently through being inspired by the members of the Flashmasters community, and in particular the ambassadors that we have in Flashmasters, who are amongst the best photographers in the world. Again, little shout out before we carry on. Promise you there's lots to come in this stream, but little shout out to Flashmasters. Flashmasters is the biggest project that I've ever undertaken in my photography career. It is everything to me, Flashmasters. I'm so proud of it. I set it up with my partner Helen almost a year ago. We're approaching our first birthday. It is a community of wedding photographers primarily, but photographers all over the world who all want to learn and improve their off-camera lighting skills, and we do that together. And Flashmasters celebrates, recognizes the best off-camera lighting imagery in the world through community, through education, and through awards. So we hold bi-monthly awards, but Flashmasters is built on a foundation of education and community. And I can show you now a little bit. If you were to join Flashmasters, it's similar to the Patreon actually. If you were to join, how they've created some of their photographs, and it's mind-blowing to find out. We're so lucky to have so many incredible photographers who for us are without doubt the best off-camera lighting photographers in the world. For example, I've got a list here: Kristen Cardona, Tanya Parada, Jessie Morilla-Plant, Amber Henry, Ben Connolly, Arno de Brown, Ralph Segalic, Marlise Hartman, Andre Brown, Scott Jones-White, Alex and Dali Weddings. The list goes on and on and on. It's incredible, and it's only getting better and bigger. We're sponsored by Magmod, PicTime, Studio Ninja, Imagine, Geekoto, Nphoto, and I can't say who yet, I'll also get in trouble, but a big sponsor will be announced when we hit 1 year old. So yeah, you don't want to miss that one, but it's big. It's big. That's all I'll say. Anyway, back to the images, but that is Flashmasters. Oh, sorry, somebody's having trouble with the audio. Apologies for that. I hope everything is okay. Andy says audio is fine here. Helen says audio is okay. Sorry about that, everyone. Andy says, do you hold workshops at all? Yes. Yes, I do. I promise these questions, by the way, have not been they've not been planted. Andy, yes, I do. I try to hold workshops if I can at the beginning of the year and at the end of the year as well. Ideally, sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once here. Not very well. Ideally, 2 or 3 at the beginning of the year and 2 or 3 at the end of the year. My next workshops will be announced very, very soon. It's going to be one workshop for the first time ever. That workshop is going to be not 1 day, not 2 days, 3 days. I've never held a 3-day workshop before, but I need to do that to try and get everything across that I want to. There's going to be a massive part of that workshop, which is shooting. A day and a half is devoted to shooting, getting our cameras out, all shooting together, all learning together. But as well, another huge part of that workshop is going to be critique, workflow, and editing. And I need 3 days to go through it all. So that's going to be held in October. And I'm hoping to announce details of that workshop in the next 2 to 3 weeks. I will say that if you do want to come on one of my workshops, then they often do. I mean, I sound weird saying this. I don't like saying it, but they always sell out. And every workshop I've done now for the past 8 years has sold out. They don't normally get to the main list stage. Normally they sell out because what I do is I announce the workshops to my Patreon and Flashmasters members first, and usually they go just within those communities. If there isn't any places left, then I send it out to my main list. So if you are interested in joining a workshop, I would recommend, it's up to you, but I'd recommend joining one of those communities so you are in with a shout of being amongst the first to find out, because they get first dibs. But yeah, I do hold workshops, but I don't hold them that often. The reason being, as I said before, I'm a full-time wedding photographer. It's what I do. I'm not education is a huge part of my business, but I'm a wedding photographer. I'm nothing wrong with how everybody wants to do things, but there are people out there who just educate, who just make YouTube videos. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm a wedding photographer who's going out all the time shooting weddings. So I can't do that many workshops. But what it does mean is I'm bringing you real world experience. And I can promise you that like all the photographs that we take here on workshops are born out of real world experience. So, it's easy to do a lot of these photographs when you've got a lot of time. It's harder on wedding days. So when I'm teaching with the intention of what you're learning being able to be carried into wedding days. That's why I'm trying to break down the process and make it feel easy. Because, sorry, I'm trying to do two things again. Yeah, because if you don't, then it's pointless. It's, you can learn all these complicated setups, but at the same time, if you can't reproduce it when it matters, it's not useful. Lost audio is back. Excellent. Lost audio when you went to the Flash websites. That's my fault. That's me playing a video, and the videos, don't have audio on. Thank you for letting me know. But yeah, that was my fault. Andy says here, generative fill these days for cloning with no assistance. Yes. Yeah. It's not there all the time yet, because there are examples where the background is still too complicated. And I'll show you a couple of examples in a second, actually, where it wouldn't have worked. But you are right. It is huge generative fill. So much more powerful than just the cloning patch tool it was in Photoshop. So yeah, for small elements, it's brilliant. I agree with you, Andy. It's just if you want to clone out big areas of a photograph, then it's still not quite there. Plus, remember, at the moment, generative fill is low res. So whatever you're replacing is low res. Just bear that in mind. But it's getting there. And if it's not there yet, it certainly will be very soon as it improves even further. AI is crazy. So let's talk now a little bit more about silhouettes, because I know a lot of people like photographs like this. So these are all taken with the same technique, which is, as I mentioned earlier, one speed light behind the couple with a grid and a gel attached. So if you're not familiar with gels, I'm very quickly going to show you those. Sure, many of you are from watching my channel, but gels are great. I use Magmod gels. They all are magnetic, so they stitch together like this. And the great thing is they take up no space in your bag and they just go on there. I don't know, by the way, I'm often asked this question, is it better to put the grid on first and then the gel, or the gel? It doesn't really make any difference. I just put them on either way. But yeah, so to create the circle of light that we're going to see in these photographs, one speed light, one grid, one gel. That's how we do it. And we point that speed light away from the couple onto the wall. Now, it's better if the wall that you're reflecting onto is quite light. That will mean that it's a reflective surface, which means that you don't need as much flash power. You can still do it on a dark wall, but you need more flash power. You might be up to like a half power if it's a very dark background or a very non-reflective background. But oftentimes, if the background is fairly light or reflected, you can get away with a 16th or an 8th power for that backlight. So that's how we've done here. Again, I'm still using the same technique. I'm still looking to expose for these photographs for something that is bright. Now, in this scene here, you see that the columns that you see are blue. Now, I did not add that. That was pre-existing light from the venue. So I'm exposing for that blue light. And then I'm just trying to find an area that I can place my couple that's not going to be distracting and then put the speed light behind them. Let's just go to another couple here. All these are the same technique. So another one, exposing for the lights on the floor here. You'll see as well with the silhouettes, I'm trying to add in a little bit of interest to the shape of the silhouette of the couple. We see in Flashmasters especially, we see a lot of what we call penguin poses, which is just a couple side onto each other, facing each other. And that's fine. That's really, nothing wrong with that. I do it all the time. There'll be examples in this presentation where I do that. But excuse me, I do find it's nicer if you can add in a bit of interest to the silhouette, i.e. here, which is what something I learned from Two Man, Erica and Lanny, where they put the bride's hands like this just to create a bit more interest. With this photograph, I've asked the bride to hold up her dress just to, again, just add a bit of difference. But that's penguin pose shooting through fire. Same pose as the first one. This is shooting through a chandelier. Same thing though again. I'm underexposing the scene, taking layer one. Let's go back to the beginning. I'm exposing for the brightest thing. That's layer one. Then I'm not touching the camera. Then I'm putting the speed light behind the couple with the grid, with the gel. Then I'm putting the couple in front of it and I'm critiquing. And then changing the flash power only. That's all I need to do. Same here. Now this is shot through a crystal. I'm going to show you a little bit now about how I use that crystal. So again, I've got many videos on my channel where I'm shooting through things to create interest. So here's an example. Oh, sorry, not yet. I'll show you in a second. That is coming up. But for now, I just want to show you this. In fact, before I show you the video, let me show you the end result. And then I'm going to show you how I created it. So that is the end result of the video that I'm just about to show you. It looks complicated, but again, if you follow the process, it's easy. So what we're exposing for here, I can't hear you, but in fact, let me know in the comments, what am I exposing for to get my layer one? You get a shout out if you're the first to answer. Well, I'll take a drink. I'm a little bit laggy, by the way, so it'll take a second for me to see the comments. Well, what am I exposing for in this scene to create the underexposed photograph? We're not getting comments. Come on, you got this, everyone. You got this. I'm putting this down to the lag. In which case, you're going to have to look at all this gap. So this will be the last time I think I ask the question because it's taking too long. Tell you what, I'll tell you. Oh, we've got loads of answers now. Loads of answers. Yes. Les says, thank you, everyone. String lights, yes, that works. It wasn't actually those, but yeah, it's the correct answer in a way. Bulb and Michael has got it correct as well with just the lights. Yes, it's the ceiling lights. So when we expose for the ceiling lights, everything else goes underexposed. And this is now literally the beauty of using off-camera flash. Because, yeah, Farid as well says light. Jack says light. Yeah, well done, everyone. Thank you for getting that right. Shows that people are listening. I really appreciate it. And again, if you haven't done so, if you could please like the stream, I'd love you forever. Thank you. Yeah, so let's have a look at the behind the scenes of this now and take notice here of just how bright it actually is and how we can then change what the human eye sees. That is what the human eye sees. That is what the bride and groom see and all their guests see. Look at like the distracting elements. Look at the chairs. Look at the ladders. It's just a little bit messy as a scene. Notice that the chairs are behind the couple. They're really close to the couple. We're not going to see any of this in the end photograph. No, Robert, good question. Robert's asked, do you get the groom to hold the flash? No. The reason I don't, and that's a very good question, is because if the groom is holding, and what Robert's meaning is, you can obviously do or achieve a photograph like this by asking the bride or the groom, whoever it is, to hold the flash behind them like that against the wall. But they're human. They move. And with a shot like this, you're trying to get everything just right. You want that circle to be static, because if not, it's not going to work. We need the circle to be perfectly around the couple. And if it's not, it won't work. So in this case, no, it's on a light stand. In fact, if I go back, you can just see to the left of the groom's leg there, the light stand. And there is me using that same makeup mirror that I showed you a little earlier in the stream. So this is real wedding day, showing you exactly how I do it. So let's now take away that video. And there's the end result. But now you've seen the behind the scenes and you understand the process. Hopefully, you can see that it's easy. I really, really hope you do, because that's what this stream is all about. You know, people look at these photographs and think, I can't do that. You can. And let me say, if I can do this, you can. I promise you, I am not a great photographer. I am not a great technical photographer, but I know how to use the equipment that I have in my bag to achieve the results that I want to achieve. And a lot of it is just learned. You know, it's not like a natural gift. A lot of this is just learned through practice and through learning and through being inspired by lots of other photographers as well. And you can do the same. I promise you, you can do exactly the same. So we're going to build on now and to introduce two lights. So this is an example here of where I've used the composite technique, and I would suggest, we had a question before, or a point made before, about how generative fill can, you know, replace needing to composite in images, and it can to a degree. But with a photograph like this, where the mag box that you'll see me use in a second is quite prevalent and quite large in the frame, I do think it's much harder to use generative fill, and it's probably not going to quite get there. We do have an option with this particular photograph to copy part the left hand side of the photograph and flip it. That's another way, but I'm not really a fan of doing that because sometimes it looks a bit obvious that you've done that. So let's have a look at what I did here. So this is a 3-shot composite. So there's one speed light behind the couple with no modifier. There's no modifier because I want to light the rain. This was a real wedding day taken about a week and 2 days ago. It's very, very new, this photograph. I want to see the rain. So if I had a grid on my speed light, it would narrow the spread of the light. If I was indoors, I'd use a grid. But when I'm outdoors and there's nothing for that light to hit and bounce off, then I want the spread. And I want the spread because I want to light up all the raindrops that are in that photograph. So that's why the light is behind the couple, because that's what helps us to see the raindrops. That is, again, big thank you to my friend Tony Darcy, who also has an amazing YouTube channel. Just type in Tony Darcy, TonyDarcy, into YouTube, and then have a look at her videos and give her a follow, a subscribe. Her videos are brilliant. If you like my channel, you will really, really like Tony's channel. We've done loads of videos together, and we help each other out at weddings, and this was Tony very kindly helped me at a wedding. So this now is shot 2. Tony there is holding the Magbox Pro 24. And that is the final result of these two photographs merged together. Sorry, I lied. I said this was a 3-shot composite. It's not. It's a 2 photograph. I'm an idiot. 2 photographs. Photograph 1, photograph 2. And great question. Yeah, Andy said exposed for the lamps. So again, just to reiterate, I think Andy's talk about the process. The process is the same. The process is always the same. I've exposed for the brightest part of that photograph, which in that particular example was the lights on the building. I've then dialed, once I got the underexposed photograph, I've not touched my camera. Don't touch it again. All I do is then put the light behind the couple, turn it on, take one shot, introduce the light in the front, boom, we're done. Composite them together. You just need to remember to take the photograph with the base layer image, if you like, in order to composite it out, because I've just got the feeling that generative fill may have struggled there. It is brilliant, don't get me wrong, but it might struggle. See, Andy, yeah, no worries. Okay, let's just move on to a couple of others. Coming up next, by the way, I'm going to talk about fake sunset photographs, which, again, I know people always really enjoy. So we spoke about that one earlier. All these are 2 lights, one behind the couple, one in front. In fact, you can see with this photograph here that there is a little bit of spill from the speed light I've used here. You can see how the light, or the wall, the grass and the wall is lit. That's because the speed light is hitting the couple from the side, bouncing off them and then hitting the wall. So I should have controlled that better. Same venue as the one in the rain. This is East Hall in Lancashire. Same process. 2 speed lights, one in front, one behind, exposing for the building and the candles in the foreground. Exposing for the sky. I've created all this from nothing. So this is me underexposing everything. You can do that with Flash. You don't always need to expose for a bright object. You can bring in all the light yourself. You only really want to do that though if there's interest in the frame. There is interest here. It's the rain. If there was no rain, I wouldn't have took it here because this would have just been Demi against a dark background. It wouldn't have been, there'd be nothing interesting. If there was no rain, I'd try and create foreground interest, and you'll see me doing that in a second. This is 3 speed lights. Again, there's a video on my channel where you can see me doing this. 1 speed light behind Demi facing the background with a blue gel on. So that's why the building that you see in the background is blue. It's a blue gel. 1 speed light behind Demi facing Demi. In between me and Demi, that's lighting up the rain. Bare speed light. And 1 speed light lighting Demi, which would have been in a mag box, and then composited that out. Again, if you want to find out more about this particular photograph, there is a video on my channel where you see exactly how I did this. Another example here where I'm shooting through glasses. Now, I do this quite, this is something I know people really love to do, and it's really easy, especially for wedding photographers, because you often will have things like this on a wedding day. So it's like a wedding reception, people on the dance floor, you've got all these glasses and things just lay around. This is a great potential. So I've gathered a few candles and glasses together, and I've lit those glasses with a speed light. You can see there, just underneath, see where it says Flash 1 grid and magenta gel. Underneath there, you'll see the speed light with 2 grids. Sorry, with a grid and a gel. This is before the magnetic gels that Magmod have brought out. But that means that the foreground here is going to be magenta, which is like purple and pink, but it's also going to be orange as well, because the warm candles, and all that together gives us that. Little video here I'm going to show you of where, again, you can see this video on my channel, but where I'm using a very similar technique for a similar photograph. So I'll show you that now. And then I'm going to use my toys as well. So I'm going to first of all take a shot just as we have. So I'm just going to move you really close with your bodies, you two, if that's okay, please. That's it. Perfect. Amazing. Good, you two. So with the silhouette, I'm always looking for a little gap between the heads, bodies really close together. I'm just going to drop my ISO from 200 to 100 to really take the sting out of the exposure. Yeah, that's good. So that's just to show you in practice what I'm doing here. But again, it's really simple. These are the photographs that couples look at, well, my couples anyway, and they love. And it also means that you can stand out online. These days it's so difficult to stand out. As I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, wedding photography is a very crowded industry. There are so many wedding photographers out there now, and it's hard to produce images which will give you attention, which will stand out and get you noticed. These photographs using off-camera flash and Magmod will do that for you. Same process, but this time I'm shooting through what's called a fractal filter. Again, video on my channel if you want to see exactly how I did this one. I know that was taken within seconds. This is just me playing around. Once I've got the setup, I'll just shoot through all different stuff all the time. Yeah, just in a comment, Nick says that I might be dropping frames. I did just get a little notice, but it's gone away now. So all being well, I think we're good. Apologies for that, though. This is where I've taken away the light that is pointing with the gel behind Demi and James here, and I've moved it in front of them, took off the gel, put on a Magsphere, and taken that photograph seconds later. Same technique, but I've just changed the light that was behind, moved it in front. Again, that's the same setup as this, but that's on my 85mm. This is on my 35mm, shooting through the fractal filter. Again, check out the video on my channel. You'll see the full behind the scenes. And this one shows you how I use a crystal to create an effect which looks like fireworks. So here you will see, let me just go back to the beginning of that video. you'll see what the human eye saw. This was the scene. So I did, by the way, I did take a photograph, a really nice, safe portrait with all these chandeliers. So before I get crazy, I do take a photograph which is a bit safer for the couple, and then I play around. That's what I always love to do. Safe shot, then play around. And it's always good to have these things in your bag. So this is the setup. This is old now. Again, there's a video on my channel where I did this, but this is in my Nikon days, so it's at least 5-6 years old, this. But speed light behind the couple with a grid. I'm going to underexpose this whole scene by exposing for the chandeliers. When I expose for the chandeliers, it means that everything else is going to go underexposed, which means that the couple would be stood in near darkness. That's good for me because that means that there you can see a bit more potential there when I've exposed with my iPhone here for the chandeliers. And you can see that if I was shooting in natural light, exposing for the chandeliers, the couple will be too dark. So I'm going to light the couple with this speed light on the right. That's actually got a snoot on it. I wouldn't do this anymore, but this is how I used to do it. But the main thing we want to see here, in fact, we're going to go up to that speed light. Let's see what that is up to. Again, these are my old Photic Strato triggers as well. That was on a 8th power to light the couple. And as we move on, you will see effect. That's a crystal. I've just bought that off Amazon. Nothing special. Just look for teardrop crystal, crystal ball. You'll see things like this. Only a few dollars off Amazon. But what happens when we put that in front of our camera? And again, my advice, if you want to do photographs like this, always shoot on a 35mm lens with a wide aperture. So for me, that'll be a 35mm shot at 1.8. What happens when we put that in front, right in front of the lens, and then put that in front of... That's the files that was taken, and in a second you should, I think, see... Oh, I thought you saw what happens. I apologize. But that's... You see the effect. You get that. You get that effect. 2018, that was. Yeah, and there... If we let it run through, you will see, again, the end result. Right, the last thing I'm going to do in this live stream is talk about fake sunset. I'm not going to have time, unfortunately, to do speeches and dancing. What I would say is that if you want to learn more about my setup for speeches, my setup for dancing, then I've done this stream in much more detail. I say this stream originally in Flashmasters and in my Patreon, which I've done it for in there, lasts for 6 hours. I'm trying to do this in 2 hours, and I've got 10 minutes left, so I'm flying through it a lot quicker than I would ideally like to. But I am now going to cover the fake sunset technique, which is brilliant. The fake sunset, especially if you are, like me, someone who lives in a country that is not blessed with good weather, even in the summer. Sorry, my voice is going here. Even in the summer, you know, you need to have, or you really want to have up your sleeve, excuse me, the ability to create fake sunlight. And we can do that with Magmod and off-camera flash. So let's have a look at some examples here. The easiest way of all, by far, is this. Excuse me. My voice is going big time. This is just one speed light behind the couple on a very tall stand. And all it has on it is a full CTO gel. A CTO gel, if you're not aware, is basically an orange gel. And it's orange because we want... I use a CTO gel, a full CTO gel, because we want to mimic the warm light of the sun. As you can see here, we don't have the sunlight. So we need to create it ourselves if we want it. You can also see as well how bright the ambient light is, which is interesting when you see what the end result looks like. So it's by no means like fully dark at all. It's broad daylight, if anything. But by using off-camera flash, we can create a photograph like this. Again, it's just one speed light behind the couple with a full CTO gel on it. Now, this was taken on an engagement shoot. So one of the things that I really like to do is practice things like this on engagement shoots. Because On an engagement shoot, I feel like I've got more time. There isn't as much pressure. And I'll say this to my couple sometimes. I will say to them, just so you know, I'm going to try something out. I've never tried it before. It might work. It might not work. If it does, it'll look really cool. And if it doesn't matter. I would not do this for the first time on a wedding day. And I wouldn't advise that you ever do. But use engagement shoots as a practice run. And one of the great things is that when you do this, you can use what you learn on an engagement shoot and take it into your wedding photography. So that was taken about 2 weeks after this one. It's the same technique, but this is on a real wedding day with a real couple with all the time pressures and the stress that a wedding day brings with it. But I'm not doing this for the first time on a wedding day. I'm doing this for the first time on an engagement shoot. And what I'm learning and taking into a real wedding day. It's one of the reasons that I still enjoy doing engagement shoots now. Let's just before we go on to another, we've got quite a few bits to cover in the fake sunset. But before we go on to that, let's just see some questions because I've not done that for a while. Hopefully, again, it's all useful. If you haven't done so, I know I've asked a lot of time, but I'd really appreciate it. We've got 108 likes now, which is amazing. If you could please like the stream, I would really appreciate it. The reason that I keep on asking is just because it pushes this video out into the wider audience. The more likes a video gets, the more interaction a video gets, then the algorithm thinks, oh yeah, this is useful. People are enjoying this. So let's give it more, let's give it a bigger audience. So if we could hit maybe 115 likes, would that be possible? Then that would be incredible. Thank you. So few questions here. And thank you to everyone again who has joined. I really appreciate it. TJ says, Neil, let's say you want to backlight the couple and add a splash of colour with a gel. Would you put a light with no grid behind to light up the rain and a second to add colour? Yes. Yes, great point, TJ. If you want to add colour to the rain, you can do so using the gel. That's the great things about gel. So I've not got any examples, what I've done before, and I'll tell you who's got a great example of this. If you look up a photographer, I'm sure TJ will know this photographer, called Scott Josewhite. He has got a beautiful photograph of a couple on a real wedding day in the rain where he's used 2 speed lights behind the couple with gels on to create red rain and blue rain. It looks epic. So Scott Josewhite. Scott Josewhite is spelled Josuweit. Look him up. He's also one of our Flashmasters ambassadors. I think that photograph also may be on the Flashmasters website. I'm not sure. We certainly do have a how I shot it with Scott. Again, it may be the YouTube version. It may be the members version. The members version of the Flashmasters videos are much longer than the YouTube version. The YouTube versions, which are on our YouTube channel, you can watch for free. They're basically aimed just to whet your appetite. And then the full length versions, which are just for the community, are on the website, which you can view as soon as you log in. But Scott has got a beautiful photograph where he has done exactly what TJ is asking there, where he has used a gel to light up the rain like that. So yeah, I need to do that. I've not tried that as much. I've done it before with just one gel, and it looks really cool, but I've never done it with 2 gels. But yeah, great question, TJ. Hopefully that answers. Ken, this is Ken from Iceland. Ken, who was from the video before. This is Ken. Thank you for joining, Ken. Can't wait to use my new Magmod Octa 24 this weekend for something like this. Side note, your Amazon UK equipment use link isn't working. Maybe note it down to change it later. Thank you, Ken. Appreciate that. Yeah, there is a link on Amazon somewhere. I thought it was in the description to everything that I use, but obviously it's not working. Thank you for letting me know. Top man, Ken. And again, thank you, Ken, for all you've done for me. Question here from... Tuhin, how do you choose your white balance or flashlight? Great question. One, white balance doesn't really matter too much if you're shooting raw because you can always change the white balance in post. So I'll tend to shoot on a constant white balance all day of a manual white balance of around 5.5 to 6,000 Kelvin, somewhere in that region. And I don't change it. But it does mean that when I get back and I'm editing my photographs in Lightroom, I can change the white balance in post. Please, though, do not shoot in manual white balance if you're shooting JPEG, because you don't have anywhere near the same flexibility to change your white balance in post. If you do that, you will struggle. You've got to get your white balance right in camera if you're going to shoot JPEG. So that's one of the main reasons I don't shoot JPEG, because I want the flexibility of playing around with white balance. Plus, I just like to be creative with my white balance in post. I might want to warm up that part of the photograph and cool down that part. Again, if you want to see how I edit, there are countless videos in my Patreon where I show you how I edit my photographs. But yeah, so that's how I choose my white balance. In the main, I'm shooting manual white balance about 5,500 Kelvin, which is warm, to 6,000, which is warmer than reality. But I like my photographs to be warmer than auto, because auto to me just looks cold and blue and not very photogenic. Warmer white balance just looks nicer, I think, aesthetically much more pleasing to the eye. Thank you for everyone who's liked the stream, by the way. We're up to 111 now, which is amazing. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you. Cool. Hopefully that answers. Oh, flashlight. I'm not sure exactly what you mean there, Tuhin. You can change the color of the flash by using gels. Hopefully I've answered that in what I've been talking about. If not, just please let me know. Question here from Dion. Thank you for watching, Dion. Do you see the end result of the image you are creating in your head before you shoot, or are you sometimes surprised with the result? Brilliant question, Dion. I'm really pleased you've asked that. Little bit from column A, little bit from column B. So yes, I do. And I don't you, Dion, if you saw the beginning part of the stream. If you didn't, I'd really encourage you to watch back the beginning bit. Or if anybody's watching and you just joined now, I talk about how I pre-visualize photographs in the beginning of the stream. And I do that by trying to train my eyes to look at the world underexposed. And that is where I can see what the photograph's going to look like roughly before I've even done that in the camera, before I've even used speed lights. And the more that you do this, like with anything, the more you do something, the better you get. Remember, there is a very good theory that I definitely buy into and subscribe to called the 10,000 hour theory, which is that to be good at anything, to master something, you need to spend 10,000 hours doing it. So with the more time you spend with the camera in your hand doing this, taking off camera flash shots, pre-visualizing, the more that you will just start to see the world like a camera sees it underexposed, without the limitations of our very, very good wide range, high dynamic range eyes. As I said before at the beginning of the stream, like our eyes actually don't help us, because our eyes have this huge dynamic range. Cameras, that's their dynamic range. So we need to train ourselves to look at the world like a camera does, through the limitations of the camera. And the more you do that, the more you can't help it. You'll end up going into, especially for me, like if I see buildings lit up at night, it's like, imagine what that would look like. And I can see it, like what that would look like in a photograph. Or if you walk into a room where there's lamps and there's ceiling lights, like the photograph we looked at before, where I used the mirror where you saw the behind the scenes video, I'll walk into a room like that and I'll be like, oh yes, I can see it. I can see what other people don't see, not because I'm talented, because I've been doing it for years. And I know what that's going to look like, and I know what lens I'm going to use. I know what my settings are more or less going to be, and by going through the process, I can get there really quick. And it only takes, like, I've got my couples for those portraits indoors. I've got them there for 2 minutes, because all the prep work, putting the light stand up, getting the base layer in, it's all done before the couple are there. I bring the couple out. All I'm doing is just tweaking the flash power. Great question, though. Great question, Dion. Wow, thank you. Genuinely, I'm touched by that. I'm not sure if that's your name, William, but thank you. This is one of the most useful videos of off-camera flash I've seen on YouTube. Thank you, honestly. It means so much to me to know that I'm helping people, because I'll be honest, you know, if you're a wedding photographer, do you know it's like when you leave a wedding, you think, oh, I've done quite a good job there. You hope you have anyway. And you think, yeah, especially if you've worked really hard. Like a wedding I shot about 10 days ago, did not stop raining all day. And I mean that. I mean not stop raining the whole day. And you leave and you think, do you know what? I think I've done well. And even more so, I feel like I've really earned my corn at that wedding because I've needed to use everything that I've learned to create images because everything was against me. Everything was taken indoors. It was raining, all that stuff. And you leave feeling quite hopefully, quite proud of yourself. And you get a lot of satisfaction. And that feeling is how I feel when I get messages like that. It really makes me think, oh, it's the same like warming feeling that I get inside. So thank you for saying that because it honestly means an awful lot. Mark says, increase ISO to show details surrounded with sunset photo instead of complete black background. Yeah, I never have a complete black background. I'm always trying to get the ambient exposure to a point where I'm exposing for something bright, but I don't like complete black. I will always try and bring a little bit of detail back, but I wouldn't raise the ISO too much if that meant that you're losing detail. For me, when I'm shooting off-camera flash, I'm trying to retain detail in the highlights, and by pushing up your ISO, you can start to maybe lose detail in the highlights. That's what you don't want, because lost detail is just white, just plain white, and it just looks horrible in the end photograph. If you don't lose the detail, you can underexpose in post further, which means that you can change and play around with the brightest point of where that photograph is. And I often do that in my editing. I will often play around with thinking, okay, I've not lost any detail, so I'm going to underexpose the lamp more, bring it down. I'm going to just bring up the exposure with a couple more to rebalance the brightest point to make it look aesthetically nicer. So just be wary of increasing your ISO too much. And question here from Lewis, what is the best light setup for wedding receptions without white ceilings or not being able to bounce flash? I'm not going to have chance, Lewis, to do that on this stream. I'll tell you what I will do, though. Tell you what I'll do. I do cover all this in my Patreon and in Flashmasters. But if there is enough interest, I will do a second one of these streams live on my YouTube channel for the bits that I'm not going to have time to cover. Speeches and dancing. So if you want me to do that, please try and get this up to 120 likes. And please like the stream and let me know in the comments if you want me to do that, because I was not, you'll know that I don't go live very often on my YouTube channel. But if you would like me to do it, I will, because I'm not going to have time in this stream. But I can't answer everything, unfortunately, in the time. But I do go through all that, speeches and dancing, in these live streams that are in Flashmasters and Patreon. I go into it much more depth. If anything, I'm just going to have to fly through it. But if you want to know that, again, just a little shout out for the Patreon. The link is down here. You get a 7-day free trial. It's free. You can just leave. You don't spend a penny and you'll get access to 350 hours if you do that. Plus, even if you do stay a member, and I hope you do, it's going to cost you £6.95 a month. That's it. And no contract. You just leave anytime. So join for 1 month, get all the content, and then leave. They are a little cheat code. But that's the best thing I would say to answer those. Oh, 118 likes. We are getting there. And my voice is holding out still just. Okay, so let's go back to the images. Les says, would love a follow-up stream. Okay, watch this space, Les. Watch this space. Please just stay subscribed to my channel. And yeah, watch this space. That's all I can say. Right, let's go back to the fake sunsets again. So we've already spoke about these ones. Let's go on to more. Right, this is an example of where I've done the fake sunset trick on a real wedding day. And I want to show you here. Oh, sorry about this. Oh, give me 2 seconds. Doing so well. Here we go. Let's get there. I use Ecamm, and sometimes it plays ball, and sometimes I get really confused by it all. Let's turn that off. Why can I not see the video? Here we go. can't see the video technique. Oh, it's because the Patreon thing's on. My bad. Right, we got there now. Sorry about that. Right, so this is one light, this setup, and it's the same setup as before. This is my good go-to for a fake sunset. So let's play through. So I'm going to shoot through what I was pointing at there. See how I'm pointing at these leaves. Now these leaves, like ivy, have got reflective surfaces. So there's little bits of these leaves which are lit up. And that, if you see little bits of brightness like that, little bright bits, that becomes bokeh when you put your camera really close and you shoot at a wide aperture. Virtually all my portraits, the more I'm talking, more my nose is getting itchy. The more, when I'm shooting portraits, I'm virtually always at wide apertures because I like bokeh. I love bokeh. I'm addicted to it. So I'm always trying to create it if I can. And little bits of brightness is what's going to give you the bokeh. So remember, the two things you need to remember is to have your camera close to the bokeh. My hand is the bokeh, like to whatever you're shooting through, that close, plus use a wide aperture. So for me, this I think was taken on my 85mm, and it will have been at 1.8. So let this video play through. So that, where you're looking now, that's going to be my camera position, that composition there. Now we're not going to see the fake sunset, or the speed light rather, because I always position it always out of the frame. If you have that speed light that you see in the photo, in the video there, in the frame, it will be a distracting element. It will just be too bright. We want to make sure it's out of the frame and we're just getting the warm light from it. That's all we want. So let's see what that gives us. There we go. Just one speed light, really straightforward, with the full CTO gel on there, which I said before. Full CTO gel, if you're not aware, is basically just an orange gel. That gives us the warm light, and all this foreground bokeh is the leaves. Now, you wouldn't get that, as I said before, if you weren't positioning your camera close to the leaves. So it's important that you do position your camera close to the leaves. And that's where you'll get all this cool stuff. Now, as well as that photograph, I also took a second one of the same setup. And in the second one, I added a front light onto the couple. The front light had a grid and a sphere, or just a sphere. Again, there's nothing. I didn't need a grid so much here because there's nothing for the light. I don't need to control the spill that much because it's only going to hit the couple because we're outdoors. But the sphere is going to just soften the edges of the light, as we saw earlier in the stream. So this is two lights this time, the same one as before, plus a light from the front. And let's see what that gives us. There we go. So do you see the difference here between the light quality? Oh, sorry. The light quality on the couple. That is with the Magsphere with the light from the front. That's with no light from the front. Whichever one you prefer, is cool. Like, everyone's different. You might prefer the one without the light hitting the couple or the light with the light hitting the couple. But what I'm trying to show you here is the difference. And it's not difficult. People will look at this and think, oh, like, how have you done that? That's it. I promise you, I really hope that if you take nothing from the stream, it is that this is not difficult. And I really hope I inspire you just to try. And that's when you're going to learn. It is not difficult. As I said before, I am not a great photographer. I'm just someone who enjoys practicing and trying things and then seeing what happens when I do that. So again, without, with. Now, this is a bit more complicated, this one. This is a 3-light fake sunset setup. So let's go through this. This is light A. I'm saying A, I know it won't, but this is C. When I'm positioning my speed lights, I always have them in the same order. C is lighting up the foreground. Now, I'm going to position myself to shoot through this long grass. Let me just go back to the beginning. I'm going to ask my couple, pause it there. Now I'm going to, if you look at this, you can see where the Magbox Pro 42 Octa is positioned. I'm going to ask my bride and groom, again, this is a real wedding day. I'm setting all this up whilst the bride and groom are having their wedding breakfast. So it's having no impact on them at all. All the setup is done there. I'm going to ask my couple to come out. They're going to stand in front of the Pro 42. And so that means that they're going to be, as you look at this photograph here on the screen, about just when you see the light in the background on the big light stand, just to the right of that is where they're going to stand in front of the Magbox. I'm going to shoot through all this long grass that you see in the foreground. All that stuff there. I'm going to shoot through that. And I'm going to light. Now, if I do that and underexpose everything, I'm probably not going to see that grass in the foreground. So I want to be able to see it. So how am I going to see it? I need to light it up. And you see here that I'm going to light it with Flash C, which is my Godox V86 again, with probably a half CTO gel on it. That's going to warm up that foreground. So the foreground will be warm. Let's just walk around here. And the light that is hitting my couple is always speed light A. This is just easier for when I've got the couple and I'm moving the speed light powers up and down. It's an easy way for me to remember. A hits the couple. B is B for behind. That's behind the couple. C is light in the foreground. I always use the same. Muscle memory is a very powerful thing. It's like I'm always shooting with two cameras. This is always my 35. This is always my 85 on a whole fast strap. It's always the same. So I don't have to think. It's just muscle memory. Same with the speed lights. Again, V860, don't fall into the trap of thinking that you need loads of flash power. Because you can see how bright the ambient is. You don't need loads of flash power. I would probably like an 8th power. It's another like misconception that people have, that you need lots of power. 121 likes. Thank you. And still 60 people watching. This is amazing. Thank you, everyone. Let's go back now. My throat is struggling. Let's go round now to see speed light B. How do I know it's B? It's going to be behind the couple. This light stand is from a company called Neewer, Neewer, I think. And it's a beast of a stand. It is massive. It goes really high. And that's good. Because remember, I want this speed light B, the fake sun, with the full CTO gel on, to be up and out of the frame. I don't want it to be in the shot. Now, if I was only used to use one of my little light stands, it would be in the photograph. So I want to make sure that it's out of the frame. And to do that, I need the height, which is why I use that beast of a stand. Again, it's important to stress, with this wedding day, this is a wedding day. This is not a style shoot. This is not me spending hours over this to get it right. It's a real wedding. And again, anybody can do this. It's just the more you do it, the more you will become confident to do this. And then it becomes second nature. And then you just get really excited because you'll see long grass like this and think, oh, wow, I know I can produce something really cool here. And this is what we produced. So that is on my Sigma 135mm f1.8 lens. And yeah, I would have had the couple out there for a minute, 2 minutes, and then they're done. That's it. And it is not that dissimilar to how that would look in camera either. It's very close to in camera. Okay, let's move on. This is from A Real Wedding Day. There is a video on my YouTube channel, on this very channel, where you see how I created this one. This was 3 speed lights again. It was virtually identical in setup to the last one. So fake sun behind the couple, flash B. Light hitting the couple, flash A. Light hitting the foreground flowers, flash C. Easy. This was taken on one of my workshops, and this was taken in very low ambient light. This was almost pitch black. In fact, I can tell you that, one of the things if you ever take video with your phone, you'll see it exposes the scene really well. So it can be a little bit different, to reality with the video. But I promise you, and somebody watching maybe have been on this workshop, this was not what the human eye saw. It was much darker than this. And it was also raining a little bit as well. So there are 3 speed lights here. Same thing again. This is the great thing about Flash. When you understand the process, you can repeat it time and time again. And you know that you're going to get good results because you've learned the process. It's one of the things that I always teach in my workshops. It's the process. I want you on my workshop, for example, I want you to go away with really great images that you love. But more than anything, I want you to have the confidence that you can go and recreate it on your own. And that's what I'm trying to show you here as well, as best I can when everything's online. So we've got 3 speed lights again. And it's the same as last time. There's the big one. Full CTO gel. You'll see it's also got a bag on it. Now that's really important. That is a big, clear freezer bag. You really have to use freezer bags or some sort of clear protection for your speed lights if you're shooting outside in the rain. Otherwise, they're going to blow up or something. So I just get my freezer bags from IKEA. They have, in my opinion, the best freezer bags, and they're big and transparent and thick, and they keep speed lights dry. So these are IKEA freezer bags. But again, Speedlight B behind full CTO gel. Lighting Demi & James is Speedlight A. That's got a mag sphere on it. And we need to create foreground interest. And there is our foreground interest. It's just these bare twigs. This was taken in winter. It's grim. It's cold. It's raining. It's flat light. It's all that stuff that, again, if you were shooting natural light, you'd be like, yeah, this isn't going to look good. You know, you'd be like 6400 ISO and your white balance would look awful. No control of the light or anything, but this is the beauty of Flash. And again, Speedlight C has got a warm, I don't know what it is. It might be a warm CTO or a red gel. I can't tell. Do I film it? I can't remember. It's just another, probably an orange CTO gel, and it's light in the foreground. And I'm going to shoot this scene. Oh, actually, no, you see my settings here, I think. Ooh, there we go. So B, behind the couple, 16th power. A is on 128 power. Now that's really low power. And that is because it is so dark and the light source is so close to Demi & James. The closer the light source, the less power you need and the softer the light will be. Plus, the darker the ambient light, the less flash power you need. So I always think of it like the Speedlight's having a chat and it's like, this is really dark. I've got it easy. To light this couple, I can just lie back, get a cigar out, chill out, because I don't have to work hard. And that means I only need 128 power. It's easy. So really low power. And Flash C, which is lighting up the foreground, is on 132. There we go. And let's see what that gives us. Put it all together and we get that. Now that is the raw file. Okay, that is not the end result. The end result is there. So that was created in near pitch black conditions, all with off-camera flash and mag mod. That is the beauty of understanding how to use off-camera flash and mag mod modifiers to create something from nothing. You can get to a stage when you're confident of using off-camera flash like we're doing here, where literally you will want it to be raining on a wedding day. That to me is the perfect point to get to, because when it's raining, you'll be thinking, oh, I know I can get good stuff. I dare say you can even get to a stage where you don't want sometimes it to be good light. You want the rain instead. And my couples as well will often book me because they want these shots. So they actually sometimes want it to rain, not all day, obviously, but they'll actually want it to rain a little bit in the evening because they know what we can produce. So yeah. Question from Lou. That's a beautiful image made simple. I'm not sure which one that was, Lewis, but thank you so much. Wish this could be used in Nigeria. There's always a rush. Well, hopefully I've shown you in this stream Francis, that it doesn't take long. It takes practice. You know, if you were going to try this for the first time on a wedding day, you might find it's going to take you 10, 15 minutes, a lot of practice shots, a lot of frustration, stress. But if you do just practice when you're not working, you know, go to the park, ask a friend to model, just to stand there, light up a tree, whatever it is, you're just practicing, you'll get better. And I know I keep on sounding like a broken record, but it's not difficult. If I can do it, you can. There are better photographers watching this stream, I know, because I've seen their names come up. And, you know, honestly, if I can do it, you can. And then the more you do it, the better you'll get. The better you get, the quicker you get. The quicker you get, the more confidence you get, and then you can do it. I know, but I do know from personal experience that Nigerian weddings are crazy. I've shot 2, and both of them were crazy. So I know it's not easy. Robert has asked, why high-speed sync in this photo? I'm not sure which one that was, Robert. If you could just let me know in the comments. I rarely use high-speed sync. The only times that I would use high-speed sync is if I'm trying to overpower quite a bright light source. But for me, the majority of time that I use in off-camera flash is when the ambient light is low, whether that's indoors, where it's going to be darker anyway because we're inside, or outside in the evening. I tend to use a lot of my off-camera flash shots in the evening because the ambient is low. I don't very often at all, although I do have a video coming out soon where I do this, but I'm very rarely overexposing bright sunlight, because to me, if the sun is really bright, I go with the sun, I go with the natural light. You know, natural light is beautiful. What a lot of the things I'm showing you here help with is when you don't have the natural light, you know, when you are struggling because the light isn't great and you need to create something yourself. But if you do have nice natural light, I often just go with that. So it's rare that I'm using high speed sync. So if you could let me know, Robert, which one you can that was referring to, I'll answer that. Fareed says, do you recommend using ETTL for speed lights? No, I never use anything like that for speed. All my speed lights are, and to all my camera settings, I should have mentioned this earlier in the stream, sorry. Everything that I do is manual because I don't want the camera to make decisions for me. You know, it's really important for me that I'm in control of everything because oftentimes I'm purposely underexposing in camera, knowing that in post I can bring things up, and I don't want the camera to override what I want and make its own decisions. And that's what ETTL is. It's the camera telling the speed light go at this flash power, and that's not good for me. So the speed lights are always in manual, and I'm controlling the speed light power using, again, the Godox X2T trigger. Oh, it showed high-speed syncing trigger. Thank you. Okay, let me go back to the... Oh, right, yeah. Yeah, it does. So, it always... I've got this set up for high-speed sync, which is there. That doesn't mean I'm using it. So, it's just that the trigger is set up for high-speed sync if I want to use it, but it doesn't mean I was using it. So in that photograph you saw there, that was really low ambient light. So I would probably be in a 160th shutter, 400 ISO. What I do know is my aperture would be wide open because that's what's going to give you the bokeh. You know, you don't want to shoot a photograph. If we just go back. Oh, sorry, not this. You don't want to shoot a photograph like that at f8. Because that bokeh you see in the foreground will just look it'll just look too accurate to what it is. It'll look like twigs. It will look horrible. But by shooting wide open, that's when you get those sort of large areas of bokeh. But really good point, Robert. Really good point. I should have mentioned that, yeah, when I show you the trigger, excuse me, it's not actually, it doesn't mean that I'm shooting in high speed sync. It just means that the trigger is allowing me to use that if I go faster than 200th of a second. Excellent. Thank you, Robert. Cool. Thank you, everyone. I have really enjoyed this. Again, I'm just going to say before we finish, I want to talk about YouTube again very quickly. I know you'll all leave now, but I want to say again, thank you for all your support on YouTube. It's really meant so much to me over the years. YouTube has been the filter that helps my business across Flashmasters, Patreon, workshops. It's given me a reason to go out and shoot for fun. It's given me a reason to create and to try new things, which I will then share with you. And I've really appreciated every like you give. I know it's just a click of a button, but honestly, to people who make videos like me, it means a lot. Your comments mean a lot. You know, would I do this if I didn't have anybody watching? I don't know. But knowing that I do have people, and 50,000 of you now who have subscribed to my channel, means that it just inspires me to want to go out and shoot and create and try new things that I can bring back and show you and share with you so we can all improve together. So thank you for all your support. It's meant so much to me. The idea of having 50,000 people who have clicked on the subscribe button is crazy. I can't get my head around it. It was something I'll always struggle with that, but thank you for that. And again, if you enjoyed what I've taught you or tried to teach you, what I've explained in this video, I promise you, you will get so much value from Patreon and from Flashmasters. They are the home of all my content. And whereas this may hopefully have been very useful to a lot of you, to the members of Flashmasters, to the members of my Patreon, this is not new. We do this 3 times a month. Like, this is something that we do regularly. So if you enjoyed this content, please consider joining one of those communities, maybe both of them, because I promise you, you will get so much from it, so much from it. It's like when you think of Flashmasters, people I know primarily seem to join for the awards. But it's the content, the education that is going to keep you there and provide you with so much knowledge. Patreon's the same. So many videos, 350 hours of videos, 120 videos are available to join as soon as you join. And you can leave after a month and you've only spent $6. If you leave after 7 days, you spent $0. So yeah, and you'd also be supporting me as well, which obviously I very, very much appreciate and always means so much. So Lewis says, thank you for sharing your knowledge. Yeah, you can try everything that I've shown you in this video. You can do at home with a Coke can. Exactly. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate it. Thank you so, so much. From Westfield, Massachusetts. Amazing. Like the Bee Gees song named after your city. Oh, nothing to apologize for. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, and I will try and do another live soon, I promise. It's just finding the time in the diary. So much of my time is taken up now with Patreon, with Flashmasters, workshops, YouTube videos, obviously. Then I do struggle, but I will do another live before the end of the year. Say, maybe, I don't know, hopefully we'll do a Christmas special, something like that. In the meantime, though, if you do want to pick up on where we've left here, with speeches, with dancing, with covering everything in much more detail, please consider the communities that I've mentioned to you already. But for now, I'm going to sign off. Thank you again to everyone who's subscribed. Thank you, Paul. Thank you to everyone who has supported me. Honestly, it means so much to me to have so many people viewing my videos, to know that I've got you all having my back, supporting me, means so much. To Magmod, thank you. To everybody who's helped me with my videos, to the models, to everyone who's helped film. In particular, thinking like Tony, Helen, Demi, James, Darcy. There's been so many people I've used. They've all not only now have, you know, become really like good, close friends, but they've all helped me along this road, as have you for subscribing. So I've not mentioned this word once yet. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. There's loads more content coming. Some very, very, very exciting videos coming in the next couple of weeks. I cannot tell you any more, but keep your eyes peeled. And then in September, a huge announcement coming up in Flashmasters. But for now, thank you again for watching. Thank you for all your support. As I always say in my videos, I will see you next time.